transmigrating into the Naruto world, the very first thing I did was to reanimate Madara Uchiha to make him watch Boruto. After that, I even convinced Obito Uchiha to form the strongest Uchiha trio, and completely appended the entire ninja world, because I had explained to Naruto and Sasuke that during the Boruto era, a series of disasters would occur, but I was branded a dangerous fanatic spreading lies. Even my younger brother lost his life because of this. In the end, I had no choice but to inherit his eyes, simultaneously merging his ocular powers with mine, thus wielding the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and 6 rare ocular abilities. I made my grand entrance, using my actions to show Naruto and Sasuke the correct way to experience Boruto. At this moment, inside a cave, I was opening Madara Uchiha's coffin, which I had stolen from the hidden leaf, and preparing to cast the Edo Tensei on him. I then glanced at the white Zetsu nearby, who was about to wake up. He should have perished during the 4th Great Ninja War, but I secretly kept him alive for emergencies, and now was exactly the time to use him. Therefore, I used my ocular jutsu to reanimate Madara. Before long, the coffin completely blasted apart. The next second, Madara Uchiha appeared before my eyes. Seeing no cracks on his face, I couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Mizuhanome is truly incredible, because it can cause any jutsu paired with it to yield extraordinary results. So under Mizuhanome's amplification, my Edo Tensei was even more perfect. Seeing this, I slowly spoke up. I am Chen Uchiha. It is an honor to meet you. Hearing this, Madara immediately realized I was a descendant of the Uchiha clan. He then looked at me. I see traces of ocular jutsu usage in your eyes. You used it in conjunction with the Edo Tensei, didn't you? What did you do to my body? Hearing this, I nodded. Other than the Tentail's power, your peak condition has been fully restored. Within this body, as my words fell, Madara looked stern. He hadn't expected me to use the Edo Tensei to preserve the true ocular power of his Rinnegan. Madara immediately launched an impatient attack against me, planning to interrogate me through combat about my motives for reanimating him. Seeing this, I instantly used my dojutsu to flash a short distance away. I then smiled faintly at him. Senior Madara, are you done testing my strength? Hearing my words, Madara immediately looked at me. The dojutsu you just used is a time dojutsu, isn't it? It shouldn't just be a personal barrier. Show me its higher level capabilities. I nodded in response. That wouldn't be a problem. But compared to my dojutsu, shouldn't you first ask why you were reanimated here? Madara chuckled upon hearing this. If I ask, I might have to kill you immediately. If I don't, I can at least enjoy myself for a bit. As soon as he said this, I couldn't help but think to myself. After he reconciled with Hashirama Senju, he acknowledged Hashirama's ninja way. So if I wanted to harm the ninja world, he would definitely execute me on the spot. But before I could think any further, Madara was already impatient to witness my dojutsu. Seeing this, I immediately charged at him. After a fierce exchange of blows, Madara fell completely silent, simply because he had witnessed my ability to rewind time. Although the limit was only 5 minutes, it was still an absolutely terrifying power. Finally, Madara looked at me with a serious expression. Chen Uchiha, was it? With your level of strength, why weren't you present during the 4th Great Ninja War? As his words fell, I couldn't help but fall deep into thought. Back then, both my younger brother and I only had the Mangekyo Sharingan. And as a transmigrator, I knew it was a war we were destined to win. So there was no need to waste our limited ocular power. My original plan was for us brothers to each exchange one eye, so we could both awaken a single eternal Mangekyo. Then I would convince Naruto and Sasuke to form an alliance to defend against external threats. But I never expected my brother to suddenly leave me, nor did I expect Naruto's side to completely ignore me. Therefore, I was ultimately forced to inherit both of my brother's eyes and readjust my plans. Thinking of this, I only replied with 4 words. The time wasn't right. Hearing this, Madara raised an eyebrow. Tell me, what is your purpose for reanimating me? As soon as he finished speaking, I didn't answer his question immediately. Instead, I asked if we could talk elsewhere. After getting Madara's agreement, I brought him back to my home. Not long after, we arrived outside a small cabin. A woman was standing outside the door to welcome me. Welcome home, dear. The man beside you must be Uncle Madara, right? Before Madara could speak, a little girl also walked out from the side. Is this uncle a relative of mommy? Why does he look so much like her? Hearing the little girl's words, Madara was instantly stunned, because this woman indeed looked very much like him. Seeing this, I began to introduce them to Madara. This is my wife, Hikari, and this little girl is my daughter, Suki. After saying that, I led them into the house. At this moment, Hikari saw that Madara and I had matters to discuss, so she took little Suki out for a walk. After they left, Madara slowly spoke. Hikari is also a survivor of the Uchiha clan, isn't she? I nodded upon hearing this. Yes, but Hikari has another name. One that you definitely won't find unfamiliar. Her name is Nanashi. Hearing my words, Madara looked shocked. You mean to tell me she is the one from the mid-warring states period? Who, because she awakened a rare ocular power, is she the girl who was treated as a weapon by the Uchiha clan, and ultimately sealed away by the combined forces of the Senju and Sarutobi clans? As his voice faded, I looked at Madara. That's right, Hikari is Nanashi's true name. During the Warring States period, she was sealed away, and it wasn't until 16 years ago that I freed her. As soon as I finished speaking, Madara looked completely incredulous. He had never imagined that Hikari would become such a gentle wife. After all, back then, she was hellbent on destroying the world. Seeing his reaction, I explained to Madara. At first, she was indeed like that. However, I spent 16 years giving back everything this world owed her. Because of this, my love slowly changed her, and she eventually became my wife. After catching up on these personal matters, we got straight to the point. My expression turned serious. Although the war is over now, Kaguya Otsutsuki's clansmen are still waiting for an opportunity to stir up trouble. Yet Naruto and Sasuke have lost their sense of urgency over the years. The overall combat power of the ninja world has also regressed. They are no longer capable of handling the upcoming crisis. Therefore, I must step forward to change this situation. But my strength alone is not enough. I need like-minded comrades to stand with me. And that includes you. Hearing this, Madara looked confused. This time, I directly activated my Sharingan. Since mere words couldn't explain it clearly, I decided to show Madara directly the future of the ninja world without my intervention. Meanwhile, back in the Hidden Leaf Village, the captain of the guard was reporting the theft of Madara's corpse to Naruto. Hearing his report, Naruto slammed his hand on the desk. Are you certain the one who took Madara's body was that Uchiha? Chen, as soon as he spoke, the guard nodded immediately. Yes, 7th, I couldn't be mistaken. But fortunately, there were no casualties. Hearing this, Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Although he was deeply perplexed, he could only accept the reality of the situation. Just as Naruto was wondering how I had managed to pull it off, Shikamaru suddenly spoke up from the side. Did Uchiha-Chen leave any message? Shikamaru's question made the guard pause for a moment. He actually did leave a message for the 7th. He said he had already reached out to you many times, but since you remained determined to do nothing, he would have to do things his own way. At those words, Naruto immediately looked at Shikamaru. Did Chen ever mention coming to take Madara's remains? Shikamaru shook his head. He never said that. He did contact us multiple times via letters, but he never mentioned wanting Madara's corpse. Upon hearing this, Shikamaru recounted the contents of my letters to him. When Naruto heard the name Otsutsuki, he immediately stood up, because when he first took office as Hokage, he had suspected that the Otsutsuki might still exist. Moreover, Sasuke had been secretly investigating outside the village for years, yet he had never been able to verify this theory. But I had blatantly stated in my letters that the Otsutsuki were still out there. Seeing this, Shikamaru looked at Naruto. I hypothesize that Chen must have heard some rumors and decided to make a big deal out of it. Furthermore, on the day you were preparing to meet him, I asked him about this in the reception room, and he actually claimed he foresaw it in a dream. That is an ability exclusive to the Great Toad Sage of Mount Myoboku. He didn't even try to make his lie convincing. And now he has stolen Madara's corpse. All these actions prove that he is a dangerous extremist. Naruto looked fairly disappointed after hearing Shikamaru's words. Just as they were trying to guess why I had stolen Madara's body, Sasuke's messenger hawk suddenly flew up to the window. Seeing this, Naruto untied the letter. The message stated that a man calling himself Shin Uchiha had attacked Sasuke. After reading the contents of the letter, Naruto decided to put my matter on hold to prioritize Sasuke's emergency, while ordering the sensory division to heighten their guard. Meanwhile, Madara had just witnessed the destruction of the Hidden Leaf and the end of the Shinobi era. After watching the vision unfold, Madara fixed me with an icy glare. You had better give me an explanation. Hearing this, I spoke slowly. I used to have the ability to dream, allowing me to foresee the future to a certain extent. In the Genjutsu just now, I simply projected the exact future I foresaw, using my Sharingan. As I said this, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. After all, I couldn't reveal my identity as a transmigrator, so I had no choice but to claim it was precognition. However, having already witnessed my heaven-defying abilities, Madara felt that predicting the future wasn't entirely impossible. But he wasn't going to believe me that easily. Therefore, Madara asked me how I could prove that the scenes I showed him were truly the future. Hearing his question, I immediately looked at him, because I foresaw the outbreak of the Fourth Great Ninja War, and then the war actually happened. Moreover, the specific progression of the war played out exactly as it did in my dreams. However, the future foretold in those dreams was predicated on my absence. With my interference, the actual future will also inevitably change. As my voice faded, Madara's expression remained stern. How do you expect me to believe this is the future, and not just some fabrication woven by your genjutsu? In truth, Madara's stubbornness at this moment was less about skepticism, and more about a refusal to accept reality. He simply could not accept the pathetic states Naruto and Sasuke were reduced to in the vision. Seeing this, I maintained a calm expression. If the events in the genjutsu actually come to pass, wouldn't that be proof enough? Tomorrow, the battle between Naruto, Sasuke, and Shin Uchiha will take place right on schedule. Why don't we go and witness it for ourselves? With that said, we concluded our conversation and prepared to watch their battle together the next day. In the blink of an eye, the next day arrived. Madara and I arrived at a pavilion overlooking the Hidden Leaf Village. Immediately after, I activated my visual prowess, because this will make the two of us immune to all sensory techniques. However, the caster cannot leak any killing intent. Otherwise, the concealment effect will immediately be dispelled. After I finished casting the jutsu, he slowly spoke. I'll make this clear right now. If we end up coming up empty-handed later, I absolutely won't forgive you. Hearing this, I told him not to worry. Afterward, we arrived at the place where they fought. At this moment, Naruto was sitting on a rock, while Sasuke was leaning against the door of a tower. Seeing this scene, I immediately looked at Madara. We arrived right on time. Madara stared at this scene, which perfectly mirrored what he saw in the genjutsu. His face was filled with disbelief. However, not long after, a man and a youth suddenly appeared. It was none other than Uchiha Shin and his clone child. In fact, regarding Shin's background and the course of this battle, Madara had already previewed everything beforehand through the genjutsu. Therefore, Madara came here with only one purpose. That is, he wanted to confirm Naruto and Sasuke's current state with his own eyes. At this moment, he already believed that I possessed the ability to foresee the future. Even so, Madara still didn't want to see Naruto and Sasuke get beaten right before his eyes. After all, those two were once existences that even pushed him into a bitter struggle. By now, they had already started fighting. After a brief bout of combat, both Naruto and Sasuke were wounded by Shin's blades. Seeing this, Shin immediately let out a disdainful smile. Peace halts the further evolution of humanity. This point is perfectly exemplified by the two of you, and the cessation of evolution will inevitably lead to destruction. Before he could even finish speaking, Sasuke's wife, Haruno Sakura, suddenly descended from the sky and attacked Shin. Consequently, Shin collapsed to the ground. Sakura's appearance directly turned the tide of the battle. Seeing the situation, Naruto immediately restrained Shin and his clone, while Sasuke began to catch up with Sakura. Everything seemed to be developing in a positive direction. However, upon witnessing this scene, Madara's eyes didn't show the slightest shift in emotion, simply because, in Madara's view, the amateur mistakes they made during the battle were utterly irredeemable. Furthermore, their combat instincts had severely dulled. Following this, a white, one-eyed monster suddenly appeared beside Shin, sucking Shin, his clone, child, and Haruno Sakura into a black vortex. In the next second, they vanished completely. Everything unfolded exactly as the future I had foreseen. Seeing this, I looked at Madara. Do you believe me now? That just now was the future without my interference. Hearing my words, Madara wore a solemn expression. Did you not reveal the future to Naruto and Sasuke? You said you were looking for like-minded comrades as the heroes who ended the ninja war. Those two would be the most suitable candidates. As Madara's voice trailed off, I immediately shook my head. I have been trying to communicate with them for all these years, and I've lowered my stance as much as possible. Yet, in the end, I couldn't even formally meet Naruto. Hearing this, Madara asked why I hadn't resorted to forceful methods. Hearing that, I couldn't help but fall into deep thought. I had already shown my sincerity before, but they didn't trust me at all, even considering me a dangerous element. Thus, there was no need for me to grovel before them. After all, respect between people is mutual. Thinking of this, I slowly spoke. Naruto and Sasuke need to be taught a harsh lesson by reality before they can fundamentally reflect on the reasons for the ninja world's regression. As soon as I said this, Madara asked the question he cared about most. Then why did you choose me? You should know that I was someone who once pushed the ninja world to the brink of the abyss. After hearing his words, I didn't answer his question, but instead walked over to the place where they had just fought. By now, Naruto and Sasuke had already left. Before long, I found the remains of the white creature. It was the very medium that carried Uchiha Shin's embedded space-time ninjutsu eye. Seeing this, Madara furrowed his brow. Are you trying to reverse time? To restore this thing to its state before it was killed? But if you do that, Sasuke and Naruto will also be brought back. Are you planning to start a war with them right here? Hearing this, I burst into laughter. I can target a specific subject and isolate the temporal reversal of its state simply by placing my hand upon the target object. As I spoke, I placed my hand on the white creature. Soon, the white creature sprang back to life on the spot. Witnessing this scene, Madara was utterly shocked, because if I could designate myself as the target of the time reversal, then any injuries I sustained in battle could instantly be healed. This meant it would be entirely impossible to truly kill me. However, I paid no mind to Madara's shock, and instead looked down at the white creature. Tell me what exactly you are, and I might consider giving you a quick death. Hearing this, it slowly spoke. Honestly, I don't know exactly what I am either. I am the product of Uchiha Shin's failed cloning. Because I was tainted with Senju Hashirama cells, I stubbornly managed to survive in this form. But I am the only one who can use the true power of this Mangekyo Sharingan. The eye not only retains Shin's ability to manipulate marked objects, but can also teleport things back and forth between the markers. It is a space-time dojutsu. As its voice trailed off, I directly plucked out the white creature's eye and crushed it flat with a single stomp. Then, I handed the eye over to Madara. You probably look down on the origin of this eye, but there's no denying its practicality. Please accept it. After all, although Uchiha Madara possesses overwhelming combat strength, he lacks space-time abilities. Therefore, this eye perfectly compensates for that shortcoming. However, Madara did not accept it immediately, but instead asked me in return, give me a reason to accept this eye. Hearing this, I smiled faintly. It is the answer to your previous question. We have already tasted the bitterness of loss and regret before, which is why we understand better than anyone else what is the true path. I will help you achieve it, so that you can truly reach the other side. And I ask that you do the same for me. Allow me to protect the people and things precious to me. As soon as my words fell, he hadn't expected me to understand him so well. He then walked up to me. I was deceived once before, and wasted more than half my life. I have no more time to squander. So please, do not lie to me. Hearing this, I looked at him with a resolute gaze. I promise you, on matters that decide the future of the shinobi world, I will absolutely not deceive you. Hearing my vow, Madara immediately agreed, and prepared to join me. He then took the eye I offered him. After that, we returned home together. Hikari had prepared a table full of food for us. Once we arrived, she took Xiaoyu out for a walk, leaving Madara and me some space to talk. Seeing this, I ate my meal. While explaining my plan to Madara, I told him it was called the Otsutsuki Purge Plan. The plan was divided into 2 steps. The first step was to eliminate the Otsutsuki on this planet. I intended to use Kaguya's legacy to wipe them out. Ishiki and his Kara organization were the main targets. The second step, I planned to use the 10 tails kept by Ishiki to cultivate a chakra fruit, to fight gods with the power of gods. Then, we would formulate a strategy based on the intel we gathered to mount a defensive counterattack. Madara listened to my plan. Feeling a surge of excitement, he immediately looked at me. How do you plan to collect Kaguya's legacy? Hearing this, I smiled faintly. 15 years ago, Kaguya was sealed away by Naruto and Sasuke. The 10 tails husk, the Geto statue, was also lost. So, I need to retrieve the Geto statue and gather the scattered chakra to bring the 10 tails back into this world. After hearing my words, Madara nodded in understanding. And after reviving the 10 tails, what then? Will you become its Jinchuriki? I frowned at his question. We will talk about that later, because I still don't know if becoming the 10 tails Jinchuriki will conflict with the power of the chakra fruit. Besides, the way I see it, this is merely a way for humans to mimic the power of the Otsutsuki. It is not the true path. By sealing it, obtaining the power of the 6 paths from the 10 tails is the absolute limit. That power might suffice against someone like Ishiki, but it won't be enough to challenge a higher tier Otsutsuki. As I finished speaking, Madara agreed with my reasoning. After all, Ishiki Otsutsuki's strength was truly formidable. But regardless of the method, we couldn't do it without the Rinnegan. After discussing the entire plan, Madara asked if I had a way to access Kaguya's Genesis dimension. Hearing this, I nodded. I then clasped my hands together. A second later, a coffin materialized before us. Meanwhile, in Konoha, Naruto and Sasuke had just quelled the disturbance caused by Shin. Shin and the clones had all been brought back to the village as children and settled into Kabuto's orphanage. Sakura had also returned to reunite with Sasuke. The incident ended in a happy resolution for everyone. However, Sasuke was preparing to leave again to verify information regarding the Otsutsuki. Seeing this, Naruto urged him to spend time with his family first. Sasuke paused at his words, but seeing that Naruto seemed to have more to say, he agreed to delay his departure. Seeing this, Sasuke's daughter, Sarada, and Sakura were overjoyed and headed home to wait for him. Once they left, Sasuke immediately asked Naruto what was wrong. Naruto looked at him with a serious expression. Madara's corpse has been stolen by someone named Uchiha Chen. Here is the file Shikamaru compiled on him. Sasuke immediately frowned. We just dealt with Uchiha Shin. Where did this Uchiha Chen come from? Hearing his question, Naruto handed Sasuke a file folder. Sasuke flipped through it casually, finding that part of it contained Shikamaru's investigation into my background. The other part consisted of letters I had sent earlier, just as he thought there was no useful information. A letter mentioning Ishiki Otsutsuki suddenly caught his attention. He immediately read the letter carefully. Then, he looked at Naruto. What is this about? Why wasn't something this important mentioned in your messages? As he spoke, Naruto slowly replied, I actually just found out about this letter myself. Furthermore, Shikamaru speculates that the contents of this letter were entirely fabricated by Uchiha Chen. He likely got hold of the previous rumors regarding the Otsutsuki, which had somehow leaked out, and used them to spin this tale. Right now, the most important question is, why did Chen take Madara's body? Sasuke nodded in agreement. Madara's corpse has likely seen the light of day once more. If it was only stolen for intelligence or biological material, that's one thing. The real danger is if it's used for the Edo Tensei. But in this world, aside from Orochimaru and Kabuto, no one else should possess this jutsu. Kabuto is right under our noses, and we just saw Orochimaru earlier today. He even told us about Shin's origins. However, Chen has ties to the underground black market, and Orochimaru has connections there as well. So we should still start with Orochimaru to find clues regarding Chen. With that said, they prepared to head to Orochimaru's base. Meanwhile, I opened the coffin. When Madara saw the person inside, he instantly recognized it was Obito. Seeing this, Madara looked at me. How did you find Obito's biological material? Back when I decided to use Obito as a pawn, to prevent anyone from resurrecting him via Edo Tensei, learning of the possibility of his survival, I even explicitly ordered White Zetsu to clean up the bloodstains on the boulder that crushed him. Furthermore, Obito was extremely cautious. He shouldn't have left any bloodstains behind either. Hearing his words, I smiled faintly. Have you forgotten? Uncle Madara, near the end of the 4th Great Ninja War, Obito, in order to destroy the curse seal you left in his heart, deliberately allowed Haddock Kakashi to severely wound him with Reikiri. And I was actually at the scene when that happened. It's just that I used my jutsu, so no one noticed. Hearing this, Madara sighed in amazement. You really are a scheming fellow. Then why has Obito's soul fallen into a deep slumber now? Could it be that he refuses to cooperate with you? Hearing this, I immediately retorted. Although it took quite a bit of effort, MY negotiations with Obito were successfully concluded. However, he said he needed to return to the afterlife first, to greet Rin before coming over. He also mentioned that he wanted to see you when he woke up. As my words fell, Madara expressed his approval of Obito's decision. After all, Obito also wanted to be a true hero for once. Then, I cast the Edo Tensei on Obito. The very next second, Obito woke up. The moment the two met, they were ready to fight. Just as I was wondering what to do, Guang and Xiaoyu, who had gone out for a walk, returned home. Seeing this, Madara and Obito stayed their hands. After Obito exchanged a few pleasantries with Guang, he walked over to my side. If Madara can stand before me, it means you have already gained his acknowledgement. But if you want my true acknowledgement, you must prove it through your actions. Prove that you are more trustworthy than Naruto. Understand, after this, to convince Obito to stay and lend me his strength, I spent a whole month making him believe that Naruto and Sasuke were currently unable to handle the ninja world's future crises. Obito was moved by my sincerity, so he chose to trust me this once. Seeing this, I prepared to take them to my private territory, which also served as the rear base for our faction, the Shadow Ninja Village, and, at the same time, Naruto and Sasuke arrived at Orochimaru's hideout. Seeing them, Orochimaru immediately approached and led them into the guest room. After taking a seat, Sasuke spoke directly. Orochimaru, what do you know about Uchiha Chen? Hearing this, Orochimaru smiled faintly. No wonder you came back right after leaving. It seems you've encountered trouble far thornier than Shin. Upon hearing this, Naruto's expression darkened. That guy attacked Konoha's forbidden grounds, and even took Madara's remains. As his voice faded, Orochimaru nodded. So you were worried about the risk of Madara being brought back via Edo Tensei, and specifically came here to confirm if I was involved. After all, the only ones capable of using the Edo Tensei jutsu back then were me and Kabuto. But since Kabuto has already retired, that leaves only me. Hearing Orochimaru's words, although Sasuke felt that Orochimaru wouldn't do anything to endanger the ninja world again, this matter was simply too grave. He had to let Orochimaru prove his own innocence. After hearing them out, Orochimaru replied, I have lost all desire to research the Edo Tensei jutsu. That is no longer what I seek. Hearing this, Sasuke nodded. As long as this matter has nothing to do with you, fine. Tell me everything you know about Chen. Hearing this, Orochimaru slowly spoke. As for this Uchiha Chen, I actually heard about him from a good friend of mine. But before Orochimaru could finish, Sasuke and Naruto interrupted him. Because in their eyes, no amount of stories was as important as a concrete tracking clue. Following that, Naruto and Sasuke departed. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. At this moment, Naruto and Sasuke were standing at my doorstep. Just then, Sasuke's expression turned grim. Chen's chakra has suddenly vanished. I suspect he possesses space-time ninjutsu. Hearing this, Naruto nodded. His chakra crystal allowed us to sense that he was in the land of lightning. Now that his chakra reaction has completely vanished, he must have gone somewhere much further away. Then let's hurry up and find him. Saying so, Naruto and Sasuke prepared to set out and search for me. At this time, I had already taken Madara and Obito to the Shadow Ninja Village. The village was bustling with people coming and going. But there was a young man in the crowd who was particularly eye-catching. Obito instantly recognized him as Madara. Seeing this, Obito looked at me in shock. What is going on here? Wasn't he sealed away by the Allied Shinobi forces a long time ago? And later on, his soul even ascended to the afterlife. Hearing Obito's words, I maintained a calm expression. Including the former Akatsuki members, I have collected the biological matter of most formidable ninjas in the ninja world, and brought them back using the Edo Tensei. As my words fell, Obito immediately frowned. Then how do you make these dangerous guys obey your every command? It shouldn't be those zombie talismans that erase their consciousness, right? Looking at Madara, I can tell his personality hasn't been stripped away. The moment Obito finished speaking, I nodded. It's Koto Amatsuki, born from Shisui of the body flicker. Back then, after Uchiha, Itachi burned the crow implanted with Shisui's left eye. I immediately went and retrieved that eye. Since this eye had already been activated, Koto Amatsuki required Hashirama cells to be restarted. Therefore, I used Hashirama cells to cultivate the Buhuo bird, using it as the medium to cast Koto Amatsuki. As soon as these words were spoken, before Obito could even react, Madara beside him showed immense shock at my statement. However, I didn't continue explaining at this moment. Instead, I looked toward Madara. Seeing this, Madara immediately knelt before me. Respectful greetings to Lord Shadow. Hearing this, I looked down. Madara, resume your patrol. Witnessing this scene, Madara and Obito were both in complete disbelief. After all, they couldn't see any signs of Madara being manipulated by genjutsu. Then Madara realized what was going on. The Koto Amatsuki cast by my dojutsu can turn them into my mental captives, but I don't completely erase the target's original personality. Instead, under the premise of their absolute loyalty, I preserve a part of their individuality. Obito then suddenly spoke up. Where did all these civilians come from? You couldn't possibly have cast Koto Amatsuki on all these people, could you? Hearing his words, I smiled faintly. They were mostly relocated here in secret from the Hidden Rain Village, the original inhabitants. But I didn't need to use Koto Amatsuki. As long as someone with absolute influence in the Hidden Rain Village stepped forward, that was enough. Just as Obito was about to ask who it was, a woman suddenly appeared before us. Seeing her, Obito looked utterly shocked. How could it be you? Conan, you're clearly dead. I confirmed it myself back then. Upon hearing Obito's words, Conan immediately burst into laughter. So even you can make such a fearful expression. Also, should I call you Madara, or should I call you Tobi? Hearing this, Obito didn't dare say a word. After all, back in the Hidden Rain Village, Obito was nearly killed by her. Just as the atmosphere grew eerily tense, Hikari and Xiaoyu hurried over. Soon after, they began to chat. After exchanging pleasantries, Conan walked up to me. Regarding the funding, I need to go discuss it with our treasurer Kakuzu, so I won't disturb your leisure time any longer. Please go ahead and show these to esteemed guests around. With that said, Conan took her leave. Seeing this, Obito immediately demanded to know what was going on. After hearing his question, I spoke slowly. During your battle with Conan back then, my younger brother and I were actually present. After she died, I used time reversal to resurrect her. However, my ocular powers weren't that strong at the time, so I couldn't reset her to an uninjured state. But my brother came up with a solution. He used his dojutsu to amplify mine, granting me the ability to freeze time. After that, I froze Conan's time. But since she was frozen in a near-death state, we had to find someone capable of saving her immediately. Before I could finish, Obito abruptly cut me off. But in the entire ninja world, there are very few medical ninjas who could accomplish such a feat. Furthermore, none of them seem like people you could approach openly. I nodded at his words. Exactly. Which is why Koto Amatsuki exists for times like this. In fact, 2 of the legendary Sannin were placed under my Koto Amatsuki. I didn't enslave their personalities though. I merely ensured they wouldn't interfere with my actions, and additionally, to provide me with whatever help they could when necessary. As my words faded, Obito instantly understood everything. Meanwhile, Naruto and Sasuke were still at my house. They had no intention of looking for me right now, but were instead waiting for my return. While waiting, Sasuke suddenly brought up the Hidden Rain village to Naruto. He mentioned that criminal factions had been infesting the area in recent years, causing many civilians to move away. Hearing Sasuke's words, Naruto asked him why he hadn't intervened. Sasuke looked completely helpless. There's simply too much evil breeding in the dark corners. It's impossible to wipe them all out. The root of the problem is the greed and desire within human hearts. Naruto agreed with his sentiment. Yeah, there are too many things that can't be changed just by becoming Hokage. After all, the Hokage is only the leader of a single village. Moreover, many years ago, I submitted a request to the daimyo to aid the Hidden Rain village. The daimyo did indeed provide assistance for 3 consecutive years, but stopped all support after that, only because Lord Daimyo stated that even a great nation like the Land of Fire was overwhelmed, and truly had no spare capacity to provide long-term aid to other nations. Furthermore, he warned me not to bypass him, to interfere with another country's internal affairs. So after that, the Hidden Rain village fell into decline. Finishing his sentence, Naruto thought of his past promise to Conan, and felt deeply guilty. In truth, Conan used to be on Naruto's side, because Naruto had promised her that he would bring peace to the Hidden Rain village. But seeing the village remain unchanged for so many years, she inevitably felt disappointed. Thus, after Conan saw me helping the Hidden Rain village prosper, she willingly joined my side. Meanwhile, our group arrived outside the chapel of the Shadow Ninja Academy. We saw the children inside undergoing the academy's examinations. My other daughter, Uchiha Yuki, was also inside. She demonstrated extraordinary abilities during the exam. Seeing this, I introduced Yuki to them, as well as the children of my brother and Samui standing nearby, Kaza and Hana, as they were also exceptionally talented. Just a few minutes ago, we had just run into Samui. At the time, Obito immediately recognized her as a Kunoichi from the Hidden Cloud village. He hadn't expected Samui to actually be my brother's wife. Now, upon mentioning Samui again, Obito looked over at me. Isn't Samui from the Hidden Cloud? Why would she come to this hidden shadow village? Hearing Obito's words, I immediately smiled faintly. As my sister-in-law, Samui knows a bit about the plan Shizu and I were working on in the past. She knew that our plan conflicted with the stubborn ideologies of the 5 great ninja villages. So she took her and Shizu's children and left the Hidden Cloud. She even helped me convince her younger brother, Atsui, eventually bringing them all to my side. As soon as I finished speaking, Madara and Obito both nodded. As the Academy's assessment came to an end, we walked over to Zu and praised her recent performance. Feng and Hua then came over to greet us. Seeing this, I looked at them and said, "Tonight, your aunt and I, along with Grandpa Madara and Uncle Obito, will be staying overnight in the village. The 3 of you should take your little sister Xiaoyu and go watch the fireworks together." Great! As soon as I finished speaking, they all agreed. Madara and Obito, standing to the side, also greeted them. Zu immediately recognized them upon seeing this. She was well aware of my plans, and knew they were indispensable assets to my goals. While Zu stood there in a daze, we had already left the area. However, Madara's voice still echoed in her mind. "If you can master the techniques I just demonstrated to you within that genjutsu before we return to this village, then I will officially take you in as my disciple." Hearing Madara's words, Zu became even more motivated. Meanwhile, after leaving the training grounds, we continued to tour the other facilities of the Shadow Ninja Village. Madara suddenly asked me a question, Chen. Is it peace and stability that you seek? I shook my head. What I truly desire is freedom. To be free from the constraints of any external force, and to never compromise on anything against my will. With that said, we prepared to head back and rest. At the same time, Naruto and Sasuke had been waiting at my house for a long time. Despite the wait, Naruto decided to stay put. Sasuke looked over at Naruto. Regarding the rumors about the Otsutsuki that Chen spread earlier, I suspect someone among the 5 cages leaked the information. Who do you think is the most suspicious? Naruto guessed it was Darui, because he's at the Cloud Village's Valley of Clouds and Lightning, which is the closest to where I was. However, Naruto did not believe he leaked it intentionally. Sasuke nodded in acknowledgement. But my main concern right now is something else entirely. Back then, Obito used his Sharingan to manipulate the 4th Mizukage, dominating the Mist Village for 10 long years. Could Uchiha Chen be doing something similar? Hearing this, Naruto looked shocked. Are you saying that he might have used a Sharingan to control Darui? Following Naruto's words, Sasuke decided he needed to go to the Cloud Village to confirm. They decided to split up. Naruto would stay at my house and continue waiting, while Sasuke would head to the Cloud Village to investigate. However, neither of them noticed that out in the surrounding woods, a white Zetsu was listening to their conversation. Meanwhile, back at the inn, I was sitting out on the balcony when the white Zetsu suddenly appeared before me. Seeing him brought back a flood of memories. During the 4th Great Ninja War, I had managed to save a total of 200 white Zetsu. After the founding of the Shadow Village, I divided them into inner and outer divisions. One member from the inner division and one from the outer division were paired up to form 2-man squads, establishing a secure intelligence network. Before I could dwell on the past, the white Zetsu standing before me spoke up. Lord Chen, the outer division white Zetsu just relayed a message to me. Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke are lying in wait outside your home. It seems they have been staking it out for quite some time. Furthermore, Uchiha Sasuke suspects that you have ties with the Cloud Village. Sasuke has already left to investigate the Cloud Village, but he is expected to return shortly. After hearing his report, I nodded. I understand. Have the outer division white Zetsu evacuate the area for now? Those 2 won't leave until they see me. You may step down and rest as well. With that, the white Zetsu took his leave. Meanwhile, at the back mountain of the Shadow Ninja Village, Obito and Madara had just finished sparring. Once the spar concluded, Obito was surprised to find that Madara, despite being the victor, did not act arrogant or overbearing. Instead, he gracefully gave Obito a way to save face. Noting this, Obito said to him, "You've changed a lot." Hearing Obito's words, Madara sat down across from him. Hasn't everyone? Naruto and Sasuke have changed. The very tides of the ninja world have shifted. Even you and I, who were destined to be eternal enemies, find ourselves brought back together because of Chen. Hearing this, Obito chuckled aloud. We may have been bitter rivals in the past, but from this day forward, we are comrades in arms. The 2 men exchanged a meaningful look. It was in this exact moment that Obito truly let go of his past grievances against Madara. Seeing this, Madara extended a hand to him. Obito, let's lend our strength to Chen together. The moment Madara spoke, Obito firmly grasped his outstretched hand. Agreed, we're partners from now on. Just as they were conversing, I walked up to them. Seeing me approach, they let go of each other's hands. At that moment, Obito scratched his head. This is the first time I've seen you out and about at this hour. Did something happen? I gave a nod. Yes, Naruto and Sasuke have already come knocking at my door. We need to head back immediately. However, I won't need you to step in. You just need to watch from the sidelines. With that settled, we prepared to head out. Once we sent Naruto and Sasuke packing, we would finally set our plans into motion. Meanwhile, Naruto and Sasuke had returned from his investigation. He had ruled out the possibility that Darui was being manipulated by Genjutsu. However, Sasuke had managed to gather intelligence regarding my younger brother, as well as the news that Samui had left the Cloud Village. Hearing his report, Naruto looked completely puzzled. That doesn't sound like it has anything to do with Chen, does it? Sasuke shook his head. I don't know much about this Samui, but rumor has it that she is a veteran who fought in the Great Ninja War. She's an experienced kunoichi. It is hard to imagine why someone like that would abandon the ninja village that raised her for so many years. Besides, he has 2 children, and by staying in Kumogakure, his survival and livelihood would be best guaranteed. As he finished speaking, Naruto immediately realized that Sasuke made a valid point. Seeing this, Sasuke continued, so I was thinking, in Samui's unusual behavior, Could Chen be pulling the strings behind the scenes? Moreover, Shikamaru's intelligence report stated that Chen had acquired a massive amount of wealth. Yet, his house looks completely ordinary. So where did all that money go? It inevitably raises suspicions. In short, Chen's background might be far more complex than we imagined. Hearing this, Naruto burst into laughter. It doesn't matter. After tonight, we'll beat him into the ground, drag him back to Konoha, and let the interrogation unit have a word with him. Exactly. Just as Naruto finished speaking, I appeared right in front of them. I had already erased Madara and Obito's presence, then signaled them with my eyes to leave the area. Therefore, Naruto and Sasuke couldn't see them. Seeing me, Naruto's face filled with fury. Where did you take Uchiha Madara's corpse? Spit it out right now. With that, he charged at me. I instantly dodged to the side. Before Naruto could even register his shock, I immediately entered Sage mode and counterattacked. Naruto was sent flying and crashed heavily into the ground. Seeing this, Sasuke shielded Naruto behind him and told him to heal his injuries first. Then, Sasuke glared at me furiously. Uchiha Chen, what exactly is your goal? Hearing Sasuke's question, I remained perfectly calm. My goal is actually no different from that of the past Hokage. It's just that due to our different perspectives, my methods are naturally different, that's all. As my words fell, Naruto immediately roared. Nonsense! The things you've done have absolutely nothing in common with the past Hokage. But before I could respond, Sasuke's expression darkened as well. Back then, Madara and Obito said similar things, and they also tried to subvert the entire ninja world. But what happened to them in the end? Don't tell me you don't know. I completely brushed off their words. Seeing my indifference, Sasuke and Naruto launched a joint attack against me, and unleashed a jutsu that created a continuous raging storm. However, just as they thought they had won, I suddenly stepped out of the smoke. I was completely unscathed. Seeing this, Madara, who was watching from the mountain peak, wasn't surprised in the least. After all, he had witnessed my abilities firsthand. Naruto and Sasuke, however, were utterly shocked. From then on, no matter how fiercely the duo attacked, I evaded every single strike. Losing my patience to keep dragging this out, I launched a swift assault at Naruto. The very next second, Naruto collapsed to the ground. Immediately after, he yelled, "Sasuke, run! He's too strong. There's no way we can beat him." Before Naruto could even finish, Sasuke had already realized how dire the situation was. He immediately opened a dimensional portal. Grabbing Naruto, he fled the scene. Staring at the closing portal, I spoke slowly. I hope the lesson of this defeat will help you both grow. Although we walk different paths, we all wish for this land to usher in true peace. After the battle ended, Madara and Obito came to my side. Exhausted, I sat down. The moment I saw them approach, I looked up and said, "Once I catch my breath, we'll officially initiate our plan." Meanwhile, at the Uchiha residence in Konoha, Sakura was sitting on the couch, complaining. Where on earth did Naruto drag Sasuke off to? He promised he'd be home for dinner, but I've been waiting for 2 nights and haven't seen a trace of him. Don't tell me Sasuke left without saying goodbye again? Just as she finished speaking, a dimensional portal suddenly materialized in front of them. A second later, Naruto and Sasuke collapsed onto the floor before her. Seeing this gruesome sight, the faces of Sakura and Sarada, who was standing nearby, turned deathly pale. Just as they froze in a panic, Sasuke weakly opened his eyes. Heal Naruto first. His injuries are worse. With those words, Sasuke passed out again. Seeing this, Sakura forced herself to stay calm. Sarada, go to the Yamanaka clan compound right now. Tell your aunt I know. About our current situation. Have her notify the Jonin station in the village to come here. And secure the perimeter of this house. Also, tell her to contact Lady Shizun's medical squad. To come and assist. Hearing Sakura's instructions, Sarada immediately bolted out of the house. Back on my end, I had returned home. I quickly inspected the surroundings. Seeing this, Madara looked at me. The location of our home has been exposed. Knowing Konoha's operating style, there's a high probability they'll send people after us. As Madara finished speaking, I nodded. To be completely honest with you two, I actually own legal properties in all 5 great shinobi countries, as well as the surrounding minor nations. Once we wrap this up, let's go stay in the land of water for a while. Hearing my words, Madara and Obito said no more. We then prepared to begin. The first step of our plan was to retrieve Kaguya's legacy. Realizing this, I couldn't help but think, this will require entering Kaguya's core dimension, and then re-summoning the Gedo statue. However, we'll need to use Obito's Kamui, because back when Naruto and Sasuke fought Kaguya, Obito had used his Kamui to mark the various dimensions within the heavenly realms, and successfully breached them. Thinking of this, I relayed the thought to Obito, asking him to synchronize his Kamui with my dojutsu. Then, through my flawless coordination with Obito, a spatial vortex opened, and we immediately stepped inside. However, to my surprise, the act of Obito and me opening the vortex disrupted the stability of space, causing a spatial rift to appear on the moon. Meanwhile, upon seeing this rift, Toneri on the moon immediately reached out to probe it. To his shock, he discovered that this rift actually allowed him to see into the future. However, the future he saw left him entirely astounded, because in this future, not only was Boruto's destiny twisted, but he also found himself suddenly standing within a chilling, freezing fog. Through it, a woman was slowly walking toward him. At the same time, Konoha Jonin crowded outside the building. Inside, Sakura and Shizune were treating Naruto and Sasuke. The entire process was extremely arduous. Fortunately, Naruto gradually regained consciousness. Seeing this, Sakura spoke softly. "Naruto, I know it's too much to ask you to speak right now, but the situation is dire. I hope you can briefly explain what happened to Shikamaru." As soon as Sakura finished speaking, Shikamaru quickly stepped forward. "The moment your shadow clone keeping watch in the office disappeared, I knew something was wrong. So, what exactly happened?" Hearing Shikamaru's words, Naruto forced out a name with great difficulty, Uchiha-chen. As Naruto's voice faded, Sakura looked utterly confused, while Shikamaru's face filled with disbelief. "Did Uchiha-chen do this to you and Sasuke?" Naruto nodded heavily at the question. Shikamaru's expression immediately darkened. What kind of methods did he use? Did he really use the Edo Tensei to bring back Madara? As soon as those words were spoken, a deathly silence fell over the room. After all, during the Fourth Great Ninja War, Uchiha Madara had left a deeply traumatic scar on them all. After a long while, Naruto tried his best to maintain his composure. "No," he finally spoke. "At least, I didn't see a reanimated Madara. Relying purely on his own power, he utterly crushed Sasuke and me." Naruto's words severely shocked everyone present. Just then, a young boy's voice rang out from outside the door. "Let me in. I want to see my dad." Hearing this, Naruto slowly closed his eyes. "Boruto, I'm sorry that you have to see your dad in such a pathetic state." Meanwhile, we had arrived in Kaguya's dimension. Following that, with Obito and me working together, a world of ice and snow revealed itself before our eyes. Seeing this, I couldn't help but fall deep into thought. In the original timeline, around this point, Sasuke had traveled alone to a place called Kaguya's castle, where he found the scroll Kaguya left behind, and encountered the duo, Momoshiki and Kinshiki. But I didn't know the exact location of Kaguya's castle. However, whether or not the castle was in this dimension, I absolutely had to find it. With this in mind, I looked at them. The next stop should be our destination. After speaking, Obito and I joined forces once more. Before long, the barrier of the ice dimension was shattered, and a vast wasteland appeared before us through the spatial portal. This was our destination, the core dimension. After we entered, the spatial portal closed behind us. Right at that moment, a man's figure materialized in the snowy landscape. After glancing around, he bowed to the young man beside him. When it just appeared, the spatial fluctuation was right here. Lord Momoshiki. These two were none other than Otsutsuki Kinshiki and Otsutsuki Momoshiki, to hunt down their clan's traitor. Tracing Kaguya's footsteps, they had come to Kaguya's castle. Hearing Kinshiki's words, Momoshiki looked toward the exact spot where we had opened the spatial portal moments ago. Indeed, a spatial portal was opened here just now, but it wasn't formed using the spatial powers of our clan, which creates a neat doorway. Rather, it was torn open barbarically. As Momoshiki finished speaking, Kinshiki nodded. "Lord Momoshiki, do you think it could be someone with a similar goal as us? Someone from our clan?" Momoshiki shook his head at this. "No, our clan does not lack opportunists, but we do not have such barbarians. It must be the lower life forms from Kaguya's land." With that, Momoshiki declared that they should pursue them. Subsequently, the two vanished through a space-time vortex. Not long after Kinshiki and Momoshiki left, a man dressed in white also arrived at the scene. He then looked toward the spot where Kinshiki and Momoshiki had departed, and muttered to himself, "Little Momo, you certainly move fast. And if you call me an opportunist, I'll gladly admit it. However, I, Otsutsuki Urashiki, know how to judge the situation. Acting recklessly without any intel, like you two, is a surefire way to get beaten up. Those three humans who just passed through here, according to the intel I've gathered, two of them once merged with the Ten Tails, left behind by Kaguya. As for the remaining one, my intel on him is entirely blank." But to be able to travel alongside those two, he is certainly no easy target. Meanwhile, within the core dimension, Madara cast a jutsu and summoned the Gedo statue. But in the very next second, the statue lunged straight toward me. Before I could do anything, Madara quickly waved his hand and withdrew the demonic statue. Seeing this, I didn't pay any mind to the statue and instead looked at Madara. Uncle Madara, didn't you ask earlier what plans I had for the Rinnegan? It is time to reveal the answer. Hearing my words, Madara's face immediately lit up with excitement. Then hurry up and show me. As soon as Madara finished speaking, I cast a jutsu, bringing forth a coffin. When I opened it, unknown black sulfuric substances rippled within the casket. Seeing this scene, Madara immediately frowned. What's inside this? Where did you get so much black pitch? Is the secret of the Rinnegan hidden within this? Hearing this, I smiled faintly. Of course, because this isn't pitch. It is your corpse, Uncle Madara. As soon as those words were spoken, Obito burst into laughter beside us. Madara, however, looked confused. Shouldn't you give me an explanation for this? I nodded at his words. After I stole your corpse back from Konoha, I used yin-yang release to turn your remains into this. As soon as my voice fell, Madara stared at me. I only taught yin-yang release to Obito back then. You couldn't have been there. I slowly replied. True, I wasn't there. But it was indeed you who taught me, Uncle Madara. In the meditative state of samadhi, I visualized it. You imparted yin-yang release, along with the 6 paths techniques and Uchiha Forbidden's jutsu, all to me. Of course, this kind of visualization requires certain conditions to be met. Hearing my words, Madara nodded. I see. Then do what you must. I then looked toward the demonic statue. That statue was actually the artificial Hashirama body Madara had created. Afterwards, I fused the black pitch with the demonic statue. Then, I activated my dojutsu, the power my younger brother unlocked for me with his death. Dojutsu, Twin Flowers. In the next second, my torso transformed into the appearance of the artificial Hashirama body infused with Madara on the statue. Seeing this, both Madara and Obito were utterly shocked. They asked me what I had done. I looked back at them. Twin Flowers can establish a lifelink with the target, then perfectly replicate their body and chakra, along with the abilities corresponding to that body and chakra. In other words, I swapped my body with the artificial Hashirama body on the demonic statue. After hearing my explanation, Madara gave a swift nod. Understood. However, do you plan to keep moving around in Hashirama's body? Our next step after leaving this dimension is to hunt the tailed beasts, but once the 10 tails is revived, your symbiotic state with the artificial Hashirama body will end. Moreover, there is a necessary condition to awaken the Rinnegan. You must be on the verge of death. As Madara finished speaking, my expression turned solemn. Of course, I know that. Saying so, I plunged my sword directly into my own body. I then looked at Madara and Obito. I came here with the resolve to succeed or die trying. If I survive today, please keep this a secret from Hikari. If I die before I could finish, Madara interrupted me. Then I will bring you back with Edo Tensei. After that, we'll find a way. We 3 will step out into the world together to rebirth. No one gets left behind. No matter what happens, you don't need to worry about anything else. All you need to do right now is survive and come back with the Rinnegan. The moment Madara finished speaking, Momoshiki and Kinshiki arrived. Seeing this, Madara immediately glanced at Obito. Obito, pull Chen into the time-space dimension immediately. Stay by his side and do not leave him for a single step. I remember there was another guy from their era named Jurashiki. He also possesses time-space abilities, so you must be exceptionally vigilant against him. Acknowledging the order, Obito pulled me into his time-space dimension. Madara stayed behind to fight the 2 of them. Seeing this, Kinshiki immediately launched an attack on Madara. After a brief exchange of blows, Kinshiki was sent crashing into the ground by Madara. Witnessing this, Momoshiki instantly charged at Madara, but all his attacks were evaded. Yet, the corners of Momoshiki's mouth curled up into a smirk. I noticed that while you were fighting Kinshiki, you kept an eye on this demonic statue. Do you care about it that much? As Momoshiki spoke, Madara froze for a moment, because this statue shared a life link with me. Seeing his reaction, Momoshiki prepared to strike the statue. The instant Madara realized Momoshiki's intent, he dashed directly in front of the demonic statue, intercepting Momoshiki's attack. Seeing this, Momoshiki let out a cold sneer. I don't care what you're so attached to. As far as I'm concerned, none of it matters, because you will all become my prey, along with the 2 rats hiding away. With that said, Momoshiki charged straight at Madara. Madara, however, drew out an explosive tag and slapped it directly onto Momoshiki's face. In the next second, Momoshiki was blown away by the blast. However, Momoshiki did not die, because he endured the initial impact with his physical body, and forcefully absorbed the rest of the explosion. Using Takami Musuba no Kimi, Momoshiki then laughed disdainfully, "You inferior creature. Don't think you can kill me that easily." Meanwhile, within Obito's time-space dimension, my consciousness suddenly plunged into darkness. At that moment, Jing's face abruptly appeared before my eyes. He questioned me, asking why I hadn't protected him. He continued to whisper deceitful words into my mind. Witnessing this, I instantly realized that the fake in front of me was not my brother. It was a manifestation of my negative emotions. I then launched the adamantine sealing chains at him. These adamantine sealing chains were something I had copied, using twin flowers when I made contact with Orochimaru. After that, light began to pierce through my consciousness. Seeing this, I knew I had won the battle against myself. But right then, two men appeared before me. The man with short hair suddenly spoke. The endless cycle of the reincarnates came to an end with Naruto and Sasuke's generation. Hearing his words, the other long-haired man immediately retorted, "Their story has come to an end. So where does that leave the two of us? We have fought for 1,000 years, and I've had enough. Why don't we have a different kind of contest? Let us see who can earn Uchiha Chen's acknowledgement. After all, given his strength, his achievements will soon surpass both of ours." Hearing this, the short-haired man smiled faintly. "Brother, I accept this contest, because through my resonance with Chen, I can see that the future world will need someone like him. He is someone who puts the world above all else." As his voice faded, the long-haired man nodded. "However, the time and conditions for this contest are not yet ripe. Therefore, the two of us look forward to the day we formally meet you, Uchiha Chen." With that said, the two departed together. Witnessing this scene, I immediately recognized them. These two were Indra and Asura, but I never expected that they would actually appear within my consciousness. That was not important right now. I needed to go find Madara first. At this thought, I stood up and returned to my own physical body. At this moment, Madara and Momoshiki were just about to clash. However, my appearance interrupted their standoff. I then spoke slowly, "Sorry to keep you waiting, Uncle Madara, but it is a pity. I only managed to awaken a single eye." Hearing my words, Madara immediately looked at me. "For you to awaken a single Rinnegan through such means is already incredibly impressive." Hearing this, I recounted my experience to him. Right at that moment, Momoshiki suddenly roared, "You inferior creatures! It seems you have completely ignored my presence." Immediately after, without waiting for our response, Momoshiki bellowed at Kinshiki. "Kinshiki, show them the way our clan passes on its power." As soon as Momoshiki's words fell, Kinshiki immediately appeared in front of him. Momoshiki then placed his hand on Kinshiki's head. In an instant, Kinshiki was transformed into a chakra fruit. The moment Momoshiki swallowed the fruit, not only did his body fully recover to its peak condition, but a golden Rinnegan also manifested on his forehead. Yet, in response to this, I merely gave a cold smirk. I then directly activated my dojutsu, Yunmuto Liu. This was a visual prowess capable of reversing time, and amplified by the power of Mizuhano. Yunmuto Liu had also unlocked the ability to freeze time. In the next second, Kinshiki appeared right in front of me. Seeing this scene, Momoshiki froze in sheer disbelief. Meanwhile, Obito looked thoroughly confused. How did Kinshiki reappear? Wasn't he turned into a fruit and eaten? Hearing this, Madara pondered for a moment before letting out a laugh. It seems that after Momoshiki consumed Kinshiki, a layer of karmic connection formed between them. Then, Chen reversed time, resetting Kinshiki to the state before he was turned into a fruit by Momoshiki. Under the influence of that karmic link, Momoshiki should have also been forced out of his absorption state. However, Momoshiki underwent no changes whatsoever. This means that the karmic connection has vanished. And what Chen has actually done? On the surface, it looks like he resurrected Kinshiki. But in reality, Chen simply created a duplicate of him. Hearing this, Obito nodded in understanding. I then looked toward Madara and Obito. This is the power capable of severing karma. Dojutsu, karmic severance. Following that, Kinshiki was instantly frozen, completely sealed within the ice crystals of time. Witnessing this, Momoshiki prepared to launch an attack against me. Seeing this, I gave a disdainful smirk. "Momoshiki, can you truly not see that you have absolutely no chance of winning anymore?" Hearing my words, Momoshiki was momentarily stunned. Then, he charged at me with all his might. Yet, it looked more as if he was desperate to be killed by me. Seeing this, I immediately realized his true intentions. He planned to use me as his vessel to complete his reincarnation, because doing so would vastly increase his power. Therefore, Momoshiki was trying to bait me into killing him. Then, in his dying breath, he would engrave the karma mark onto my body. Realizing this, I immediately dodged to the side. Following that, I let out a cold laugh. You want to implant the karma mark on me, don't you? But take a good look, do you really think you can? With that, I utilized karmic severance to completely sever the karmic ties between Momoshiki and myself. This way, he would never be able to brand me with his karma. Then, without waiting for Momoshiki to react, I plunged my blade straight through his body. In the next second, Momoshiki collapsed to the ground. He could not believe it. Not only did I know the secrets of their Otsutsuki reincarnation, but I had also seen right through his objective at a single glance. He then demanded that I tell him my name. At this, I walked right up to him. Uchiha-chen. Having said that, I prepared to finish him off on the spot. However, right at that moment, a white figure suddenly appeared directly above me. Apologies, but Momo-chan can't die here just yet. With that, he immediately cast out his fishing rod, hooking onto Momoshiki and pulling him high into the sky. At this moment, Madara and Obito spoke up in unison from the sidelines. That guy is Otsutsuki. Hearing their words, Yorishiki paid them no mind. Instead, he looked down at me. Another Rinnegan has appeared on Kaguya's land, though I happen to have a matching pair of those very same eyes. Saying this, he grabbed Momoshiki and retreated directly into a pitch-black rift. Seeing this, Obito's expression turned solemn. That method of tearing through space ... It's Kaguya Otsutsuki's Yomatsu Hirasaka. Should we pursue them? As Obito's words faded, I immediately shook my head. There is no need for that. Yorishiki holds a relic capable of manipulating time. After hearing my response, Obito looked at me. Are you talking about the one from the Genjutsu? Are you talking about... that time-traveling turtle? That shouldn't be of much use in actual combat, right? Hearing this, I immediately retorted. I'm not talking about that. I'm referring to something else. It's shaped like a black box. When thrown at an opponent, it can freeze time within a specific area. Then, the frozen targets are banished to a place called the Dragon Palace Castle. I've seen it in the future before. Hearing this, Madara slowly spoke. Then are we heading back now? As soon as Madara finished speaking, I looked up at the demonic statue embedded within the Chibaku Tensei above. Although it's been summoned, however, Kaguya's main body, the rabbit goddess, is still sealed at its core. Moreover, our position here has been exposed, so our only option is to smash this place to pieces. As my words fell, Obito and Madara began to brutally devastate the Six Paths, Chibaku Tensei. However, at that moment, amidst the smoke, a severed woman's arm wrapped in a white sleeve suddenly fell to the ground. Then, a pitch-black entity poked its head out from the sleeve. Just as it was about to retreat inside, a black rod fell from the sky and pinned it to the ground. Seeing this, Madara shouted, "Black Zetsu, don't even think about slipping away from under my nose." Hearing Madara's words, Black Zetsu ignored him, instead looking at me with a bewildered expression. He had noticed my Rinnegan. Clearly, he was pondering whether I was Indra's reincarnate. Right at that moment, Madara suddenly spoke, interrupting Black Zetsu's thoughts. Black Zetsu, you seem awfully calm. Following Madara's words, Black Zetsu let out a contemptuous sneer. What kind of expression were you expecting to see on my face? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disappoint you. I have already failed completely. My sole purpose for living was to resurrect my mother. But now, that has become nothing more than a pipe dream. Therefore, I have no lingering attachments to this world. Looking at Black Zetsu in this despondent state, Madara suddenly felt a deep sense of frustration. After all, he had fully intended to settle their old scores. Yet, this guy was acting completely indifferent. However, seeing this, I walked directly up to Black Zetsu. We came here for the exact purpose of resurrecting your mother, Kaguya. That is why we are here. Because I am a fanatic worshipper of Otsutsuki Kaguya. Ever since I first heard of her deeds, I was deeply moved by her. To put an end to the endless wars, she didn't even hesitate to risk execution. A woman like Kaguya truly commands my utmost admiration. Therefore, I will do everything in my power to ensure the great Kaguya descends upon this world once more. As my words fell, Black Zetsu's expression instantly filled with excitement. Excellent, there is finally hope for Mother's resurrection again. But will Madara and Obito obediently cooperate with your plan? Hearing this, I immediately told Black Zetsu, I used Koto Amatsuki on them. Now, they will obey my every command. Hearing my words, Madara and Obito played along perfectly, immediately bowing their heads in utmost respect. Seeing this, Black Zetsu actually burst into tears of excitement. He truly believed that I was going to resurrect Kaguya. Subsequently, Black Zetsu asked me to pull the black rod out of his body. I obliged, pulling the black rod free. The next second, Black Zetsu morphed back into a humanoid form. Just as Black Zetsu was about to pour his heart out to me, Madara ruthlessly plunged his hand right through Black Zetsu's back. Obito followed suit, plunging his hand in as well. Instantly, Black Zetsu realized he had been tricked. But before he could even react, Madara and Obito used Black Zetsu's yin-yang release body as a catalyst, each refining a truth-seeking orb from it. Immediately after, the truth-seeking orb in Madara's hand morphed into a crescent moon-shaped six-path staff, while the truth-seeking orb in Obito's hand morphed into a sun-shaped six-path staff. After that, Black Zetsu collapsed to the ground, reduced to a helpless puddle. Furious, Black Zetsu glared at me. Chen, you just despise me. So you used me as a punching bag for Madara and Obito to vent their anger. But what you said about resurrecting my mother ... that was true, right? I don't believe you would come all this way just for me and go through all the trouble of destroying the Chibaku Tensei. As soon as Black Zetsu finished speaking, I let out a cold sneer. Of course, we didn't come here just for you. We came here to completely obliterate Kaguya. Hearing my words, Black Zetsu instantly broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. You can humiliate me however you want, but please, I beg you, spare my mother. She is sealed away inside the stone. She can't do anything to you anymore. Please, don't drive her to total extinction. Despite Black Zetsu's desperate pleas, I ignored his begging and directly activated the Yumatode Ryu. The next second, Black Zetsu's humanoid form was restored, and surprisingly, the six-path staffs in Madara and Obito's hands did not disappear. Following that, I activated the Yumatode Ryu once more. However, this time, I applied its temporal freezing power. Instantly, Black Zetsu was completely frozen in time. Seeing this, Madara walked up to me. Chen, what are your plans for Kaguya? Hearing his question, I looked down at Kaguya's severed arm on the ground. Uncle Madara, I haven't quite figured out how to deal with Kaguya yet. Although there is a chance we could recruit her to our side, there are also too many unfavorable variables. First of all, the cost of resurrecting her is incredibly high. Secondly, the abilities she possesses are exceedingly troublesome. So, until I can come up with a foolproof way to handle her, I plan to keep her frozen. Saying so, I picked up Kaguya's severed arm. After freezing it, I stored it away inside the Taryu Spatial Zone. The Taryu Spatial Zone was a localized pocket dimension created by my Yumatode Ryu. Not only could I use this dimension as a transit hub, but I could also use it to execute space-time teleportation. After handling that, the three of us manifested our perfect Susanus, ready to continue destroying the Six Paths Chibaku Tensei. Meanwhile, I brought Momoshiki to the ruins of the land of Izuma. Yorishiki was standing beneath a withered divine tree. Only after seeing that we hadn't pursued him for an hour, did he finally let his guard down. Seeing this, Momoshiki scoffed. Yorishiki, aren't you being overly cautious? His time reversal limit could not possibly last an entire hour. Hearing this, Yorishiki smiled faintly. Better safe than sorry. And what about your injuries? They are fine. Now, by this time, Momoshiki's wounds had already healed completely. After all, the Otsutsuki clan possessed a unique healing technique, known as the Divine Domain. As long as a single breath remained, any injury could be healed without external aid. But the process required absolute stillness and focus. Momoshiki then cast a cold gaze at Yorishiki. Yorishiki, do not expect any gratitude from me. I know very well you had an ulterior motive for saving me. So how do you want me to repay this favor? As Momoshiki's words fell, Yorishiki burst into laughter. I learned that the Ten-Tails chakra in Kaguya's land was divided into 9 parts, known as the tailed beasts. Hearing this, Momoshiki frowned. So you want me to capture these tailed beasts for you? Hearing Momoshiki's words, Yorishiki shrugged. I am not that greedy. I only need the 9 tails. As for the remaining 8, you can deal with them as you see fit. Hearing this, Momoshiki nodded. I need more information on the tailed beasts. As soon as these words were spoken, Yorishiki's face lit up with excitement. Excellent! Kaguya's land possesses the technique to fuse humans and tailed beasts together. And the humans chosen for this fusion are called Jinchuriki. Currently, the 8 tails and 9 tails still have Jinchuriki. Right after Yorishiki finished speaking, Momoshiki immediately asked who the 9 tails Jinchuriki was. Hearing this, Yorishiki replied slowly. It is Uzumaki Naruto. He is known as the Hawkage in Kaguya's land. And 15 years ago, alongside Uchiha Sasuke, he sealed Kaguya away. The object you saw earlier in Kaguya's dimension, floating in the sky, was Kaguya's sealing stone. If you want to obtain the 9 tails, you will probably have to fight those 2. As Yorishiki's words fell, Momoshiki then asked if Sasuke was of his clan. Hearing Momoshiki's question, Yorishiki nodded. Yes, and Sasuke also possesses the Rinnegan. With that, he took out a scroll. More precise information on those 2 is contained within this scroll. After it is done, we will meet back here. I have already left a spatial seal in this place. I will sense it the moment you arrive. After Momoshiki took the scroll, Yorishiki leapt into the Yomatsu Hirasuka above him and departed from the area. He subsequently arrived before a palace. Then, with a smile, Yorishiki approached the white-clad man standing in front of it. It is a pleasure to meet you, Lord Otsutsuki Toneri. However, Toneri maintained a calm expression. Seeing this, Yorishiki launched a direct attack. In the next second, a cluster of red threads pierced Toneri's body. Immediately after, frost began to spread from Toneri's feet. Seeing this, Toneri looked at Yorishiki. Is this time freezing? Hearing Toneri's words, Yorishiki took a step back. After all, Lord Ryushiki did not permit me to kill a fellow clansman. So just enjoy playing in the Ryugu Palace for 10,000 years. By the time you wake up, that planet will have long ceased to exist. Saying this, Yorishiki threw out a black box. It was exactly what Yorishiki referred to as the treasure gifted by Lord Ryushiki, the megalith box. Toneri's body then began to freeze completely. Amidst the hazy fog, Toneri once again saw that figure, the person walking toward him from the mist. Seeing her, Toneri immediately demanded to know who she was, to be capable of undoing the seal binding him in the Ryugu Palace. But just as the woman was about to speak, he was completely encased in ice. Meanwhile, inside Konoha's intensive care ward, Sasuke lay on the hospital bed, having just finished recounting his battle with me. Kakashi and Shikamaru, who were present, along with Konohamaru, were entirely shocked. Seeing this, Sasuke spoke slowly. To be honest, it's a miracle I even survived. Because at that time, if Chen had been at the location of my final spatial portal, and reversed time once more, both Naruto and I would likely have perished there. Hearing his words, Kakashi immediately shook his head. His absence had nothing to do with time reversal. I believe we can approach this from two angles, unwilling and unable to deduce his circumstances at that moment. Before Kakashi could finish, Shikamaru directly interrupted him. Actually, there is another possibility, which is, he didn't dare. First, from Sasuke's description just now, I have concluded that Uchiha Chen's time reversal is subject to karmic restrictions. If he reversed Sasuke's time, the chakra Sasuke consumed to cast the spatial portal would trigger a karmic backlash upon him. By then, Sasuke would have launched a desperate death blow against Chen. Uchiha Chen probably couldn't afford that price. Second, Uchiha Chen didn't have the courage to take the lives of Konoha's to cage, because doing so would make him the mortal enemy of the entire shinobi world, and there would be no place left for him in this ninja world. Therefore, Chen didn't dare strike to kill. As Shikamaru's words fell, Konohamaru beside him looked filled with admiration. Although Kakashi felt something was slightly off, he still believed that Shikamaru's judgment must be based on solid reasoning. Thus, Kakashi nodded. Perhaps it is exactly as Shikamaru said. However, I feel there are still far too many mysteries surrounding Uchiha Chen. Until we figure things out completely, it is unwise to clash with him again. Therefore, I think we can start by investigating the senjutsu that Uchiha Chen practices to uncover his true background. Hearing this, Naruto, lying in his hospital bed, looked over at Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei makes a good point. Chen's sage mode should be the senjutsu of Shikatsu Forest, the sacred ground of the slug sage. The senjutsu of Shikatsu Forest allows the user, within a short period of time, to select multiple targets and cast techniques consecutively. His ocular jutsu is truly problematic. As soon as Naruto finished speaking, Sasuke prepared to have Sakala summon a clone of Katsuyu to inquire about this matter. Seeing this, Naruto and Kakashi both told him to focus on healing his injuries first, and personally asked the slug sage about it later. Hearing this, Sasuke agreed to their suggestion. However, at that moment, a man wearing a white lab coat walked in. Before anyone could react, he spoke directly. Lord 7th, my name is Keita Suktono. I am the head of the Hidden Leaf's scientific ninja weapons team. I heard that you and Lord Sasuke were defeated by someone named Uchiha Chen. Is that correct? Hearing this, Naruto immediately frowned. It is true. Do you have any advice? As soon as Naruto finished speaking, Keitasuke smiled faintly. Immediately after, he pulled out a precisely constructed field device. If you and Lord Sasuke equip yourselves with the latest achievements of our scientific ninja weapons team, then dealing with a mere Uchiha Chen will be effortless. Meanwhile, inside the core dimension, amidst the crumbling fragments of the Chibaku Tensei, a massive white shadow emerged. This was Kaguya's true form, the rabbit demon. Kaguya glared at the three perfect Susanus and muttered to herself, "Did they do this? Forcing me to see the light of day in such a wretched state. I have no chakra, nor do I have power. Only a broken vessel with a lingering soul." Seeing this, Madara and Obito asked me how I plan to freeze her. Hearing their question, I spoke slowly. I plan to use a ranged attack instead of grabbing her directly, to freeze her time. As soon as my words fell, a piercing spear began to take shape within the palm of my perfect Susanoo, fully condensing into form. Immediately after, my expression turned entirely serious. I prepared to inject the time-freezing power of my unique ocular jutsu into the piercing spear. But in truth, such a feat might not be possible even with an awakened Rinnegan. However, because my dojutsu possesses the power of karmic severance, I was able to accomplish it. Subsequently, frost began to condense upon the piercing spear. Seeing this scene, Obito looked curious. But isn't karmic severance supposed to cut off cause and effect? Attaching an ability that fundamentally cannot be attached should be a reinforcement of causality, shouldn't it? Hearing this, I smiled faintly, reversely severing cause and effect. Isn't that the same as reinforcing it? After I finished speaking, the frost had completely encased the spear shaft. This is the 10-strike piercing spear. With that, I immediately hurled it at Kaguya. However, at that moment, Kaguya broke free from the wreckage of the Chibaku Tensei. Immediately after, the rabbit demon opened its mouth and exhaled. A powerful wind release cannon instantly blasted against the 3 Susanoos. In the next second, all 3 Susanoos cracked simultaneously. Seeing this situation, the 3 of us immediately exchanged glances. Subsequently, we simultaneously activated our respective space-time abilities and evacuated from the Susanoos. Immediately following that, Madara and Obito launched a coordinated attack on the beast, but Kaguya nimbly dodged all of them. Seeing this, Madara immediately wove hand seals for wood clones. The next moment, 4 wood clones dashed directly toward the 4 corners of the earth. Then, under Obito's cover, the 4 wood clones immediately formed the seals for the 4 red yang formation. Afterwards, a crimson barrier wall formed a massive array across the land, firmly trapping Kaguya within its confines. Seeing this, Kaguya opened her mouth and breathed out consecutive blasts. But no matter how hard she tried, she could not shatter the barrier before her. After all, she was nothing more than an empty shell right now. She possessed neither the power of the Ten Tails, nor the chakra of all humanity from the infinite Tsukuyomi. Seeing this scene, the 3 of us immediately approached her. Yet, Kaguya still refused to give up. However, under the relentless assaults of Madara and Obito, she ultimately lost the ability to resist. I then brought out the piercing spear and drove it straight through Kaguya. After her entire body was encased in ice, she vanished from the ground before our eyes. At that moment, Madara walked up to me. The summoning contract of the Gedo statue, by default, fell to the first person after the Sage of Six Paths, who awakened the Rinnegan, which was me. But now, I am transferring this summoning contract to you. Saying this, Madara raised his right palm and pressed it against my left palm. Soon, the summoning contract was transferred into my hand. Looking at the summoning formula fading into my palm, I couldn't help but feel a wave of emotion in my heart. What I had inherited was not just the statue, but Madara's expectations and trust. From this moment on, I had become the only person in the ninja world capable of summoning the Gedo statue. Even if others were to awaken the Rinnegan in the future, they would not be able to contest my control over it. Thinking of this, I smiled faintly. Let's go home now. Meanwhile, in a dark alley of the Hidden Leaf, Katasuke Tono wore a deeply frustrated expression, because just 10 minutes ago, in the Hidden Leaf hospital room, his proposal that scientific ninja weapons could defeat me had been thoroughly rejected by both Naruto and Sasuke. This left him absolutely furious. Lord Seventh's foresight is far too shallow. After fighting wars for so many years, has their way of thinking completely ossified? To think they can't see that the future belongs to the era of scientific ninja weapons. However, just as Katasuke was fuming in anger, a blonde-haired boy suddenly called out to him. Hearing this, Katasuke immediately walked up to him. "Young Master Boruto, did you need me for something?" Hearing this, Boruto looked at him. "The conversation you had with my dad in the hospital room. I heard everything. Let me ask you, with these scientific ninja tools you mentioned, can I really defeat that Uchiha-chen?" As Boruto's words hung in the air, Katasuke curled his lips into a smirk. "Exactly. As long as you are equipped with the latest advancements in scientific ninja tools, in a single encounter, you could blast Uchiha-chen until not even ashes remain." Hearing Katasuke's words, Boruto immediately frowned. "You're exaggerating way too much. Even with my dad Naruto and Uncle Sasuke joining forces, they still couldn't defeat Uchiha Itachi. How could the scientific ninja tools you're talking about defeat him in a single encounter?" At those words, Katasuke immediately prepared to let Boruto experience the power of the scientific ninja tools for himself. 15 minutes later, the two of them arrived at the shooting range in the mountains behind Konoha. Katasuke once again brought out the gauntlet-style ninja tool, but he wasn't in a rush to demonstrate. Instead, he proudly began explaining the mechanics to Boruto. This is the latest generation of scientific ninja tools. It utilizes chakra capacitor technology. By making use of these chakra capacitors, the chakra required to release ninjutsu can be stored within them. Once a miniaturized ninjutsu scroll is loaded, the technique sealed inside can be instantly unleashed. This way, it requires neither chakra consumption nor any complicated hand signs, as long as one knows how to operate the equipment. Even a civilian who can't use ninjutsu would be able to unleash the techniques within the scrolls. However, after hearing Katasuke's explanation, Boruto didn't care about the underlying principles. He only wanted to see its actual destructive power. Seeing this, Katasuke immediately began the demonstration. After the demonstration ended, Boruto looked thrilled and directly reached out to take it. But just then, Katasuke spoke slowly. "Young Master Boruto, I can give the scientific ninja tool to you. However, I need you to promise me one thing. The 5 great ninja villages are about to participate in the Chunin exams hosted right here in Konoha. I want you to take my scientific ninja tool and participate in this exam, and use it to defeat your opponents and emerge victorious." Hearing this, Boruto immediately refused, as he had no intention of participating in this exam. Seeing this, Katasuke's expression darkened. After all, he only wanted to use this Chunin exam to promote the scientific ninja tools. The claim that it could blast his enemy was nothing more than a gimmick Katasuke used to reel Boruto in. Thinking of this, Katasuke put on a serious face. "Young Master Boruto, although operating the scientific ninja tool is simple and easy to learn, it still requires a certain amount of practice before it can be effectively used in actual combat. I think the Chunin exams would serve as an excellent training ground. But if you're truly unwilling, then I won't force you." At those words, Boruto immediately called out to stop him. "I promise you, I'll participate in the Chunin exams, but I want you to give me your entire inventory right now, because as soon as the exams are over, I'm going to settle the score with Uchiha-chen." Hearing this, Katasuke handed the gauntlet over to Boruto. Meanwhile, I was currently in the inn. Just as I was getting ready to rest, Hikari suddenly spoke up. "Yesterday, while you were out, Konan came looking for me during the day. She said that Yuki, Kaze, and Hana are all qualified to graduate from the Ninja Academy. So she asked if, for this year's Chunin exams, our hidden shadow village should make an appearance." Hearing Hikari's words, I couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Those kids had lived in the hidden shadow village since they were 6. Although their lives had been peaceful and comfortable, they had no idea what the real ninja world was truly like. Therefore, the upcoming Chunin exams presented a perfect opportunity to broaden their horizons. Furthermore, I had a feeling that Momoshiki would make his move at the Chunin exam venue. This would allow us to cast our net and finally reel him in. With this in mind, I nodded. "I'll go speak with Konan personally later. It works out perfectly, as I need to borrow something from her anyway." Saying that, I left the inn. Along the way, I ran into Obito, and together we headed to the Hidden Shadow Ninja Village's stone chamber in the southern mountains. The Gedo statue sat upon a massive wooden lotus throne. Suddenly, a flash of white light illuminated the stone chamber. In the next second, the severed arm and sleeve of Kaguya, which had been frozen in time, appeared right in my hands. Seeing this, Obito merely stood silently to the side. After the frost thawed, I seamlessly formed a one-handed seal. Wood style? In the very next moment, a rising tree lifted me into the air, bringing me face to face with the Hashirama artificial body attached to the statue. Covering the Hashirama clone was the sharp instrument I had crafted using yin-yang release, since I had already synchronized with this artificial body using the twin flower. This vessel was currently of no further use to me. I then channeled my jutsu to manifest chakra scalpels, and right upon the chest of the Hashirama clone, I performed an incredibly precise surgery. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. As the tree lowered its height, I returned to the ground. Seeing this, Obito immediately walked up to me. He looked at Kaguya's arm, now grafted onto the chest of the Hashirama clone, and couldn't help but sigh in awe. "You really have the nerve to try anything." Hearing this, I smiled faintly. Even I can't predict the consequences, because this is entirely unprecedented. As my words faded, Kaguya's arm gradually began to swell and thicken, while Hashirama's artificial body started to continuously shrivel. Witnessing this scene, Obito looked utterly shocked. Kaguya is truly a terrifying existence. To think her severed arm, serving merely as the grafted object, could actually usurp the host like this. Devouring the Hashirama clone, along with the black substance left behind by Madara, was completely devoured and absorbed. Hearing this, I said nothing. However, half an hour later, Hashirama's artificial body had completely vanished. Meanwhile, the arm formed from ashes continued to grow, losing its arm-like features in the process. What finally stabilized was a mass of black and white flesh. Seeing this, I looked at Obito. Obito, back when your chakra possessed Kakashi, he used the Kamui Shuriken to sever several of Kaguya's tails in her rabbit form. So the connecting parts of those severed tails should still be in your Kamui dimension. Hearing my words, Obito immediately opened a Kamui vortex. While waiting, I could not help but fall into my memories. Back then, the Kamui Shuriken had struck Kaguya in her complete rabbit form. The tails had hands at their ends. These were called handtails. Given the massive size of her complete form, a complete handtail was at least 200 meters long. But the exact spot the Kamui Shuriken hit was the front middle section of the handtail, meaning only a small chunk of flesh at the severing point was dragged into the Kamui dimension. Before I could think further, a square piece of white flesh fell to the ground. Immediately after, the remaining 6 pieces dropped down one by one. However, the Kamui vortex did not stop. Instead, it reversed even more violently. A second later, a grayish-brown fluid-like object smashed toward me. Seeing this, I immediately dodged to the side. Looking at the object before me, my face lit up with pleasant surprise, because back then, Kakashi had used Kamui to twist off one of the demonic statue's arms. Later, after the statue underwent the divine jutsu, Kaguya reverted to her original state, and the missing arm was long restored by the compensatory flow of chakra. Therefore, this demonic statue arm was essentially an extra piece. At this moment, Obito ended the Kamui. He then spoke slowly. All the spoils captured by Kakashi are here. Hearing this, I shrug. Since we have reached this point, I can no longer hide my own stash. With that, I reached directly into the flowstone dimension and brought out a heavenly treasure I had stored for years. As the ice crystals dissipated, its true form was revealed. A flower bud attached to 10 meters of tree remains. Seeing this scene, Obito looked utterly shocked. I simply smiled. That is right, this is what remained after the infinite Tsukuyomi was undone. The withered flower of the divine tree. As soon as my words fell, Obito wore a look of disbelief. Did you freeze this back then too? Hearing Obito's question, I shook my head and said no. I acquired this after the war. After the war, this flower and parts of the divine tree's remains flowed into the dark underground world. After changing hands many times, it finally came to me. Having said that, I directly formed hand seals for the demonic statue chains. The next second, 9 chains burst from the mouth of the Gedo statue. 7 of them latched onto the pieces of flesh. 1 latched onto the severed arm, and the last one latched onto the withered divine tree flower. Then the 9 chains simultaneously dragged the attached items back into the statue's mouth. After this, all the chains were fully retracted. Seeing this, I began using the Yumu gyroscope to reverse time and used the annihilation spade to sever karma. Then the items that had just been fed into the demonic statue were all completely reset and brought back. Seeing this, Obito spoke slowly, asking, if you take these things generated out of thin air, after severing their karma, and feed them back in again, what will happen? Hearing Obito's words, I merely shrugged, saying they would just be fed in. The demonic statue would gain the corresponding energy supply, but I cannot create extra matter out of thin air. If I reverse time again, what the demonic statue ate would just come back out. With that said, I took the flesh chunks and severed arm restored after severing karma, along with the divine tree flower, froze them in time, and placed them into the flowstone dimension for future use. However, an hour later, the growing mass of flesh slowly took on a humanoid shape. Seeing this scene, I immediately summoned a white Zetsu over. Stay here and guard the demonic statue for me, and closely monitor the changes in the artificial body on the statue's chest. Report to me immediately if anything happens. As soon as my words fell, the white Zetsu bowed to me at once to obey. Obito and I then walked toward the outside of the cave. At this moment, Obito patted my shoulder. Chen, I heard you mention before about the current configuration of the white Zetsu. I wanted to ask, just what method did you use to allow the white Zetsu to communicate directly in pairs, while also achieving a shared life and death? Hearing this, I smiled faintly. This is the twin flower's second greatest use. Aside from duplicating bodies, I can establish a channel between 2 external living hosts for thought sharing and life binding. The connected parties can sync their thoughts in real time, just like pain. No matter how vast the distance between them, or even across different dimensions, they can communicate their thoughts without hindrance. However, if one side dies, the other will die as well. With that, Obito and I left the area. Soon we arrived at Conan's house. Conan was warmly hosting me at the moment. Just as we were talking, Madara also hurried over. Madara then walked right up to me. I have already taken your daughter as my disciple. In my nearly 100 years of life, I have seen many geniuses within the Uchiha clan, but I never once entertained the thought of taking anyone as a disciple. On one hand, I feel Zu is highly malleable. On the other hand, I feel a destined connection with that child. So from now on, she is not just your daughter. She is also the disciple of me, Madara Uchiha. As Madara's words faded, I nodded. I believed this held extraordinary significance for Zu as well. After discussing these matters, I walked over to Conan. Conan, for this upcoming Chunin exam hosted by Konoha, I've decided that the Hidden Shadow Village will also participate. Hearing my words, Conan immediately put on a serious expression. Understood. In that case, there are a few things we need to handle first. First, we need to verify our qualifications, because the Hidden Shadow has never shown itself to the world before. Submitting an application for the Chunin exams so suddenly means Konoha will inevitably demand to verify our credentials. However, for a ninja village to be acknowledged by the world, it must forge an alliance with a nation. But our Hidden Shadow Village is not affiliated with any country, so I am unsure if we will face resistance when Konoha conducts their verification. Hearing this, I spoke slowly. That is easily resolved. We will provide the Land of Birds with a sum of relief funds to help them improve their reputation. In exchange, they will act on behalf of the Hidden Shadow and resolve our qualification issues. As soon as I finished speaking, Conan shrugged. As for the Land of Birds, I will instruct Kakuzu to handle it later. That resolves the qualification issue. Next is the problem of the number of participants. The rules of the Chunin exams require teams of 3. This year, our Hidden Shadow has 4 qualified individuals, and I have already asked those children for their thoughts. HUA expressed little interest in participating. Zu and Feng are both willing to compete, and Da's son, Ganju, has also stated his willingness to go. Hearing this, I wasn't surprised at all by Ho's reluctance. I knew he was never one to join the commotion, so I respected his decision. With that in mind, I nodded. Then let Zu, Feng, and Ganju form a 3-man squad. Hearing my words, Conan agreed with my idea, but besides that, they still need a leading jonin. Therefore, I told Conan to let Dei take the role, since his son was participating as well. Seeing this, Conan frowned. I'm worried he might be recognized. He is recognized as a fallen hero of the Great War, and his name is even carved on Konoha's memorial stone. As Conan's words faded, I immediately shook my head. It's fine. When the time comes, I have a way to ensure Dei remains unrecognized. Hearing this, Conan nodded, then asked if I had anything else to discuss. Hearing Conan's words, I got straight to the point. Sister Conan, I want to borrow your body, because I will soon face a bitter battle, and your body will be of great use. As soon as I finished speaking, Conan agreed to my request. However, she made one demand in return. Seeing this, I immediately understood Conan's intentions. A split second later, a beautiful young maiden appeared directly before everyone. This was my twin flower gender reversal form, Uchiha Itachi. Witnessing this scene, Madara and Obito were both so shocked they were left speechless. Meanwhile, at the sacred grounds of Shikatsu Forest, Naruto and Sasuke were standing before the Katsuyu maiden. They had come here to ask her about me. At this moment, Naruto spoke in a tactful tone. Lady Katsuyu, yesterday during the day, your clone was also in the courtyard of Sasuke's house. You saw us getting injured by Uchiha Itachi. As Naruto's words faded, the Katsuyu maiden's expression remained perfectly calm. Then your body should still be quite weak. Why aren't you resting and recovering properly, instead of coming all the way here to visit me? Hearing the Katsuyu maiden's words, Naruto immediately asked her about my affairs. But the Katsuyu maiden did not give a direct answer. Instead, she kept bringing up the fact that I had injured both Naruto and Sasuke. Seeing this, Sasuke's expression darkened. I know the sages have their own stances, and that you are only responsible for setting trials for seekers and passing down senjutsu. You generally don't judge their ideologies or allegiances. We did not come here this time to interrogate or condemn you. We just want to ask you about Uchiha Chen. Hearing this, the Katsuyu maiden looked genuinely confused. Are the two of you mistaken about something? I don't know this Uchiha Chen you speak of at all. The moment those words were spoken, both Naruto and Sasuke wore expressions of disbelief. Naruto then looked at the Katsuyu maiden. That's far too strange. That Uchiha Chen has never met you, yet he is perfectly proficient in your Katsuyu senjutsu. Before the Katsuyu maiden could answer, Sasuke interjected directly, Katsuyu sage. As for the senjutsu of Shikatsu Forest, is it possible to obtain it through other means outside of the sacred grounds' direct inheritance? Listening to this, the Katsuyu maiden shook her head. Unless personally taught by me, Katsuyu Senjutsu cannot be harnessed or used by any external force. However, if Chen's Senjutsu didn't come from me, there must still be a source. Could it be that Chen used some method to acquire it from Little Yu? As soon as the Katsuyu maiden finished speaking, Naruto immediately pressed, "Who is Little Yu?" Hearing Naruto's question, the Katsuyu maiden spoke slowly. "I only know that her name is Yu, but I do not know her surname or her origins. However, since the Warring States period, she is the only one to be personally taught the Katsuyu Senjutsu by me, and the only one who successfully mastered it. If Chen's Senjutsu was obtained through Little Yu, then it is highly likely that Little Yu has met with an unfortunate end." As the Katsuyu maiden's words faded, Sasuke immediately suspected that Yu and I were the same person. Seeing this, the Katsuyu maiden quickly shot down his theory, because in the Katsuyu maiden's eyes, Little Yu was a woman, while I was a man. Afterward, Naruto wanted to ask for more detailed information about Little Yu. Seeing Naruto and Sasuke's relentless determination to get to the bottom of this, the Katsuyu maiden's expression turned stern. "I can only tell you this, Little Yu is not a bad person, because becoming my disciple requires passing a judgment of good and evil. And not only did Little Yu pass that judgment, but I could also feel the true kindness within her heart. A kindness capable of bringing peace and hope to the ninja world." Just as Naruto and Sasuke were listening in rapt attention. However, the slug maiden stopped speaking. This was because she wanted to immediately check on Xiao Yu's condition. Immediately after, she formed hand seals for the summoning jutsu. Meanwhile, at Conan's house, just as I was making my appearance to everyone as Xiao Yu, a guiding white light enveloped me from above. I instantly realized that this was a reverse summoning from the Katsuyu sage. Because I had signed a summoning contract with her, I couldn't help but fall into deep thought. In about 5 seconds, I would be summoned away. What should I do? Should I immediately use absolute severance to cut off the karma of the summoning? But afterward, explaining it to her would be incredibly troublesome. Furthermore, I could guess that the reason the Katsuyu sage was suddenly summoning Emi was likely related to Naruto and Sasuke. They must have followed the clues of Katsuyu's Senjutsu and tracked me down. A second before the summoning took effect, I immediately shouted, "Don't panic, I'll be right back." With that, I disappeared in a puff of white smoke before everyone's eyes. Meanwhile, in the sacred land of Shikatsu Forest, I arrived in front of the slug maiden. Seeing me, Naruto and Sasuke introduced themselves. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Sasuke reminded Naruto not to forget their main objective. He then focused his Sharingan, scrutinizing Xiao Yu's ocular chakra pathways and cerebral chakra pathways. This was because Sasuke still suspected that Xiao Yu and I were the same person. However, Sasuke couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. That was because I had used absolute severance in advance to cut off the superficial karma between my eyes and body. This concealed my latent physical and spiritual energy. Yet, even after Sasuke's confirmation, he was still not at ease. Immediately after, Sasuke took out the Uchiha Chen chakra crystal gifted by Orochimaru. But the crystal still showed no reaction. That was because the reversed entity of the Uchiha twin flowers inherently changed the foundational nature of my chakra. Seeing this, Sasuke looked deeply disappointed. Afterward, the slug maiden began to explain the reason she had called me here. When I heard that the cause was Sasuke suspecting me of being Uchiha Chen, I put on an innocent expression. I have no way to prove myself, but I'm truly not Uchiha Chen. I haven't even met anyone with the name Chen. If you don't believe me, you can continue investigating me. I will fully cooperate with you. Seeing this, Naruto and Sasuke exchanged a glance, unable to find any flaws in my words for the moment. At this moment, Naruto scratched his head. "That won't be necessary. Xiao Yu, we have a request. I hope you can agree to it, because we previously encountered a formidable enemy named Uchiha Chen, but we have too little intel on him. Therefore, we would like to spar with you, the orthodox successor of Katsuyu Senjutsu. As a reference, for us to understand Uchiha Chen's abilities, I will only use Sage Mode, and Sasuke will only use the power of his Mangekyo Sharingan. Would that be okay with you?" Hearing Naruto say this, and with the slug maiden also urging me to agree, I couldn't find a good reason to decline. Thus, we prepared to begin our sparring match. After I entered Sage Mode, our formal duel commenced. In the next second, Naruto and Sasuke charged at me side by side, but I dodged them both with ease. At this point, Naruto told me to make a move. Hearing this, I directly formed hand seals. Shikotsumyaku. In the next moment, sharp bone spikes shot straight toward the two of them. Seeing this, Naruto and Sasuke immediately dodged to the side. When Naruto got a clear look at the technique I executed, his face instantly filled with shock. Wait, wasn't that Kimimoro's Keki Genkai? The power of Shikotsumyaku Hearing this, Sasuke was also deeply astonished. In truth, Xiaoyu, as the reversed entity of my twin flowers, possessed a unique constitution. Keki Genkai compatibility. By merely implanting trace amounts of cells, I could assimilate the abilities of any Keki Genkai. At the same time, there was no limit to the quantity, nor were there any side effects. At this moment, the pressure fell upon Naruto and Sasuke, prompting them to get serious. After all, they represented the pride of Konoha. In the end, however, the two of them still lost to me. After that, Sasuke and Naruto left the sacred land of Shikatsu Forest. During this trip to Shikatsu Forest, they failed to obtain any useful information about me, so they planned to wait until the Chunin exams concluded before deciding on their next move. Meanwhile, I was bidding farewell to the Slug Maiden. Honestly, toward the Slug Maiden, I felt a sense of guilt, because she had cared for me like family. Yet, in the end, I never revealed my true identity to her. After saying my goodbyes, I dissipated with the smoke of the unsummoning, and returned to Conan's house. Immediately after, I used the twin flowers to revert back to my male body. When Conan saw me return, she walked up to me. As we agreed, you can use it. As Conan's words faded, I placed my hands on her shoulders and used the twin flowers once again. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. At this time, Yamato of the Hidden Shadow Village answered my summons. He then slowly spoke up. Lord Shadow, do you really want me to lead the team? What if the people of Konoha recognize me? Hearing this, I shrug. That's exactly why I'm here. I'll give you a layer of insurance, so that you absolutely won't be seen through. Saying that, I placed my hands on his shoulders. Immediately after, I used the twin flowers to transform Yamato into a woman. Before Yamato could even process his shock, I instantly put on a serious expression. Yamato, you will lead the team to attend the Chunin exams. During this time, just go by, Master. With that, I turned and left. Meanwhile, in the deep mountains outside Konoha, our group arrived, wearing masks. However, according to the new rules of Konoha's Chunin exams, participants and spectators had to enter through separate gates. Therefore, our group decided to split up. Shortly after, Master bid me farewell, and took Zu, Feng, and Genju to register in Konoha. Meanwhile, Madara, Obito, and I took my family to Konoha's main entrance. Right at that moment, Konoha's Takubetsu Jonin, Aoba Yamashiro, hurried over to me. Mr. Morgan, I am Aoba Yamashiro, a Takubetsu Jonin of Konoha. We received advance notice regarding your attendance at the Chunin exams. Thus, under the Hokage's orders, I have come specifically to welcome you. With that said, he led us to the entrance of Konoha's streets. Subsequently, Aoba Yamashiro handed us a special VIP guest pass before taking his leave. Seeing this, Obito immediately asked me, Morgan, what's going on? I slowly replied, Morgan and my underworld identity, Rose, are two sides of the same coin. This public identity is what I use to attend public and formal occasions. Hearing my explanation, Madara looked confused. You actually invested in the 5 great ninja villages? Do you just have too much money and know where to spend it? I smiled faintly at his words. Money just sitting there is nothing more than a bunch of meaningless numbers, but once it flows, it generates a power known as capital. And the power of capital can easily resolve many things that ninjutsu cannot. This vastly improves our efficiency. As I finished speaking, Madara nodded in understanding. I then told them to go wander around on their own, since the first 2 rounds of the Chunin exams weren't open to the public. Only the final matches of the 3rd round would be. Meanwhile, at the participant registration area, Zu, Feng, and Ganju received their competitor passes. Just then, a 3-man team from the Hidden Cloud approached. Their leader, Yurui, immediately began to mock them. At first, Zu ignored them, but when she noticed the pendant around Yurui's neck, she asked directly, is that pendant around your neck the 8 tails? There shouldn't be many in the Hidden Cloud qualified to wear such an ornament. Could it be that you're Killer Bee's disciple? And the candidate to be the next 8 tails Jinchuriki? Zu's words instantly infuriated Yurui. He flew into a rage. You wild brat! Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you speak Lord Gyuki and Master's name so casually? With that, Yurui prepared to charge at Zu. However, Boruto stepped in to stop them. As the situation reached a stalemate, Yurui's teammates came over to calm him down. Truthfully, Yurui was also secretly relieved. His impulsiveness had scared him. After all, fighting before the exams would result in disqualification. Yurui and his teammates then left the area. Shortly after, the candidates all headed to the exam. rounds. However, one person did not leave immediately. Instead, he stared blankly at Zu's retreating figure. He felt that the trio from the hidden Shadow Village, especially Zu, were not simple at all. He was Shinki, the adopted son of Kazekage Gaara. Soon after, Hida headed to the exam grounds. By now, the first phase of the exam had begun. Participants had to choose between two standing areas. Those who chose incorrectly would fall into the mud pit below. This was a test of perseverance and conviction. Zu and her two teammates smoothly passed this trial. Immediately following was the second phase, a game of capture the flag. Zu's team was matched against the trio from the hidden cloud. Seeing this, Yurui immediately became arrogant, believing that Zu's group was no match for him. However, just a few minutes later, Yurui and his teammates were sent flying to the ground by Zu. After securing their victory, Ganju couldn't help but voice his doubts. Is it just my imagination? Even if they are genin from a great nation's ninja village, their strength shouldn't be this pitiful, right? Did we just get lucky and encounter the weakest participants? However, that wasn't the case at all. Yurui's strength was considered outstanding even among chunin. It was simply that Zu's team was overwhelmingly overpowered, because the graduation requirement for the Hidden Shadow Academy was to reach the power level of a Konoha Takubetsu Jonin. At that moment, near the edge of the rooftop, Yurui's two teammates had already passed out. Yurui himself was slumped on the ground. He then apologized to Zu. After Zu, Feng, and Ganju left, Yurui couldn't help but lament, "Master Killer Bee, I'll have to beg for your forgiveness when I get back." Just as Yurui finished speaking, the 8 tails pendant around his neck suddenly cracked. Meanwhile, on the rooftop of another testing ground, Boruto utilized a scientific ninja tool to effortlessly defeat the Hidden Mist trio. Afterward, Boruto's 3-man squad walked out through the victor's corridor. Seeing Zu's trio approaching from the other side, Boruto was immediately shocked. "You guys passed too. I recall, your opponents were that hidden cloud trio from earlier. I heard that guy named Yurui is actually pretty strong. You guys aren't hurt, are you?" Hearing this, Zu just shrugged. "We're fine. You guys better prepare well. I look forward to fighting you in tomorrow's finals." With that, Zu and her team walked away. Boruto stared at Zu's retreating figure, and a sudden wave of guilt welled up in his heart, because, despite being the Hokage's son, he had used a scientific ninja tool to secure victory. Later, after bidding farewell to his teammates, Boruto walked home alone through the alleys. Just as he was contemplating whether what he did was wrong, Katasuke Tono suddenly appeared before him. "Young Master Boruto, your performance in the second phase just now was excellent." Hearing this, Boruto couldn't hold back his true thoughts. This is basically cheating, right? Upon hearing Boruto's words, Katasuke felt momentarily speechless, but he couldn't let it show. Immediately, he forced a smile. "Young Master Boruto, tools are also a part of one's strength. Historically, there have always been ninja who specialize in manipulating ninja tools. Scientific ninja tools are still ninja tools, so how could this possibly be considered cheating?" As soon as Fangju finished speaking, Boruto immediately frowned. "But scientific ninja tools are different from standard ninja tools. They do not require any technical skill, and have nothing to do with my own power." Hearing Boruto's words, Fangju looked completely serious. "So what? Your father, Lord Seventh, was born with the immense power of the Nine Tails at his side, putting him far ahead of ordinary ninja from the very start. Do you see anyone questioning him? So this is not called cheating. It is called resources. Lord Seventh enjoys the resource known as the Nine Tails, and as the son of the Hawkage, it is only natural that you enjoy the resource of scientific ninja tools." After saying this, Fangju took the scroll inside the box and handed it to Boruto, telling him to use it in the 3rd round of the exams, and that the rest would fully sponsor Boruto to obliterate his opponents. And when Boruto heard about obliterating his opponents, he immediately firmed his resolve. In the blink of an eye, a day passed. Outside the grand arena for the Konoha Chunin exams finals, in the spectator stands, tens of thousands of spectators from the 5 great shinobi countries had gathered. The 12 finalists were currently waiting in the arena for their matchups. Meanwhile, Shinki's gaze remained fixed on Zu, simply because he was greatly looking forward to fighting her. At this moment, the referee, Rockley, announced the first matchup, Shinki versus Ganju. Hearing the referee's words, the other contestants retreated to the waiting area. Shinki's face immediately filled with disappointment, because in his eyes, the completely unnoteworthy Ganju was unworthy of being his opponent. Ganju, on the other hand, looked worried, but as the battle progressed, Ganju gradually gained the upper hand. A few minutes later, Shinki lost to Ganju. After the arena was cleared, the second pair to take the stage was Feng and Mitsuki. As Lee called for the match to begin, Feng immediately activated his Sharingan. Soon after, he noticed a type of senjutsu hidden within Mitsuki. Seeing this, Feng goaded Mitsuki into using it. However, Mitsuki did not want to expose the fact that he possessed senjutsu, because if it were exposed, he would no longer be able to stay by the side of his teammates, Boruto and Sarada. Thinking of this, Mitsuki directly raised his hand and surrendered. As soon as these words were spoken, discussions erupted across the spectator stands, and Lee announced Feng as the winner. After the residual ninja tools were cleared from the battlefield, the third pair to step up was Zu and Boruto Uzumaki. At this moment, Lee had already announced the start of the battle, but Boruto did not attack immediately. Instead, he urged Zu to surrender right then and there, because Boruto did not want to hurt her with a scientific ninja tool. Hearing his words, Zu paid him no mind at all, and simply told him to make his move. Seeing Zu act so arrogantly, Boruto decided to use the scientific ninja tool to teach her a lesson. But since the scientific ninja tool was far too powerful, he planned to hold back slightly. Following that, Boruto activated the scientific ninja tool. The next second, a wine-style shuriken flew straight towards Zu, but Zu easily dodged it. During her evasion, the mask on Zu's face fell off. However, Zu did not care, and instead glared at Boruto with icy eyes. Are you fighting using some kind of external power? You're not even bothering to hide it. Immediately after, Zu stopped wasting time. After all, the chakra of Madara and Hashirama, combined with Senjutsu chakra, had formed the Yang Seal, which Madara had gifted to Zu as an apprenticeship present. Therefore, Zu had absolutely no reason to take Boruto seriously. With this in mind, Zu instantly formed hand seals. Wood style, advent of a world of flowering trees. At this moment in the stands, Sasuke wanted to halt the match. Seeing this, Naruto shook his head. When faced with Boruto's obvious cheating, not only did this girl not ask to stop the match, but she chose to strike back with her true strength. Based on this alone, we cannot stop this fight. Furthermore, Boruto Uzumaki is disqualified from the exams starting now. So no matter what the outcome of this match is, the winner will be this girl named Zu. As Naruto finished speaking, Sasuke nodded. You are right. Then let them finish this battle. However, I feel like her face is somewhat familiar. Hearing this, Naruto pondered for a moment before his expression shifted to horror. That face. I saw it in a family portrait at Uchiha Chen's house. She is Uchiha Chen's daughter. As soon as Naruto said this, Darui, who was beside them, immediately frowned. That night, you specifically came to the Hidden Cloud Village to ask me about him. So what exactly happened? As Darui finished speaking. However, before Naruto could reply, Sasuke's expression instantly darkened. Not long ago, Naruto and I joined forces, and were defeated by Uchiha Chen. I remember now. That girl is indeed Uchiha Chen's daughter. I will go apprehend her right now. Hearing this, Naruto immediately spoke up. The grudges of adults have nothing to do with children. No matter why Uchiha Chen allowed his daughter to participate in the Chunin exams, or what his motives might be, it is strictly between us and him. So we have no reason to lay a hand on Zu. Hearing this, Sasuke nodded. Meanwhile, in the contestants' waiting area, Sarada watched Boruto trapped beneath the flowering trees, desperately struggling to hold on, and immediately wanted to rush over to save him. At that moment, Feng walked up to her. Sarada Uchiha, why would you do something so foolish? Hearing Feng's words, Sarada couldn't help but tremble. Boruto is my irreplaceable comrade. I cannot just watch him die. Furthermore, if I had noticed his strange behavior earlier, he wouldn't have done such a string of foolish things. If Boruto dies because of this, I will never forgive myself for the rest of my life. As soon as Sarada finished speaking, Feng immediately shook his head. Uzumaki Boruto will not die. First, the Hokage would never just stand by and watch him die. Second, my sister, Uchiha Yuki, knows how to hold back her strikes, so he won't die. As Feng's words fell, Mitsuki, standing behind Sarada, took on a solemn expression, because he realized that Feng was deliberately trying to trigger Sarada's emotions, to stimulate her Sharingan toward perfection. Meanwhile, beneath the deep forest bloom, Boruto was already completely exhausted, lacking the strength to continue fighting Yuki. Seeing this, Yuki decided to stop there. She then dispelled the deep forest bloom. Yuki then walked up to Boruto. Seeing her, Boruto immediately spoke up. Uchiha, Yuki, why are we the same age? Yet you possess such incredible power. Hearing Boruto's words, Yuki looked serious. The power I have today comes partly from my talent and hard work, and partly from support. That support is the resources given to us by our parents. As Yuki finished speaking, Boruto looked disdainful, because Katasuke Tono had told him back then that scientific ninja tools were his resources, yet the result of using them was a crushing defeat. Boruto immediately questioned her, so you're saying half of your strength is just handed to you? Just like my scientific ninja tools? Hearing Boruto's words, Yuki remained calm. Our parents endured hardships for us and provided us with these resources. But these resources only give us a higher starting point. The heights we can eventually reach ultimately depend on ourselves. Boruto did not understand because he had absolutely no idea what hardships their parents had suffered. He even thought his father, Naruto, was born to be the Hokage and bask in everyone's adoration. Seeing this, Yuki immediately activated her Sharingan, showing Boruto exactly how his father had become Hokage step by step. After witnessing Naruto's painful past, Boruto froze in place. Afterward, Boruto expressed his gratitude to Yuki. However, at that moment, Momoshiki suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Upon seeing Naruto, his lips curled into a smirk. Seeing this, Naruto and Sasuke instantly dashed in front of Momoshiki. When Naruto recognized Momoshiki, he broke out in a cold sweat. He never expected that an Otsutsuki would actually be on this land. But before Naruto could react, Momoshiki shouted, "Naruto, hand the Nine Tails over to me right now, and I will spare your life." Just as Momoshiki finished speaking, and before Naruto could answer, Sasuke interjected bluntly, "That's impossible. Stop dreaming." At Sasuke's words, Momoshiki let out a disdainful laugh. "A mere lowly creature dares to speak to me like that. Do not think that just because you sealed Kaguya, I would fear you. Now, I will show you what true power looks like." With that, Momoshiki raised his hand. Soon, the entire arena was overshadowed by a black sun. This was Killer Bee's 8 Tails tailed beast bomb, which he had absorbed and unleashed through Takami Musu no Kimi. Not far away, seeing the scene unfold, Boruto could not stop trembling. It's completely impossible to defeat a being like this. In this world, no one can beat him. Before Boruto could finish his sentence, a long spear violently pierced through that black sun. Immediately after, I appeared out of thin air in front of Boruto. I then shot a freezing glare at Momoshiki. "It's been a while. Momoshiki, have your injuries fully healed?" Hearing my words, Momoshiki's expression instantly darkened. However, he did not fly into a rage out of humiliation, simply because my strength was already approaching the level of their clan. Momoshiki managed to force a smile. "Uchiha-chen, to be honest, seeing you again makes me very happy." As Momoshiki finished speaking, Boruto stared in absolute terror. Meanwhile, Sasuke and Naruto were visibly shocked, as they hadn't expected me to appear here. Sasuke then spoke slowly, judging from the conversation between Momoshiki and Chen. "I think they must have fought before." Naruto frowned at this. "That's right. And Chen actually managed to injure that monster." Hearing Naruto's words, Sasuke clenched his fists. Given the strength Chen displayed when he fought us, it's not impossible for him to defeat a monster like that. But honestly, more than that, what surprises me the most is that Uchiha Chen's right eye has evolved into a Rinnegan. Hearing this, Naruto looked deadly serious. Regardless of the relationship between Chen and Momoshiki, or where he got that Rinnegan, our top priority right now is to get Boruto to a safe place. As Naruto's words fell, the two of them immediately closed in on Boruto's position. Seeing this, Momoshiki instantly activated the golden Rinnegan on his forehead. In the next second, the deep forest bloom that Yuki had dispelled earlier suddenly began to riot. Massive trees grew wildly, twisting and snaking toward Naruto and Sasuke. But before the duo could react, Momoshiki launched a direct attack at them. A moment later, both of them were sent crashing to the ground. Seeing this, I smiled faintly. "So that is the visual prowess of the golden Rinnegan on your forehead. The power to hijack another's jutsu. It truly is an eye-opener." Hearing this, Momoshiki burst into laughter. "That's right. This is the spirit of Toko Yoshiki, an ability that can rival my Takami Musubi." After saying this, Momoshiki attacked me directly. Seeing this, I immediately dodged. Then, I launched a frantic assault on Momoshiki. Momoshiki looked shocked at this. After all, he didn't expect me to use such a reckless fighting style, so Momoshiki could only do his best to evade. Meanwhile, I smiled slightly. It was all because I wanted to drive him completely into a corner. Only then would he be forced to engrave his karma on Boruto, who was behind me. Then, after killing Momoshiki, I would let him resurrect through the karma on Boruto. Afterwards, by using Danmetsu Chantai, combined with Gyakumo Daryu, I would resurrect Momoshiki. This would create another version of him out of thin air, achieving the maximum benefit I desired. A few minutes later, I was already covered in injuries. Yet, from beginning to end, I hadn't let a single attack land on Boruto. Seeing this, Boruto looked at me in disbelief. "Are you protecting me? But aren't you my dad's enemy? And are your injuries going to be okay?" Hearing this, I ignored him. Instead, I directly activated Gyakumo Daryu, resetting myself back to the state before I was injured. Then I mockingly called out to Momoshiki. "Are you still hanging in there?" Hearing my words, Momoshiki immediately burst into laughter. "Uchiha-chen, I admit, you are the strongest human I've fought in 1,000 years. Why don't you replace Kinshiki as my partner? In the future, I will take you to meet Lord Ryushiki of our clan, and let you become one of the 10 gods of Takamagara." As Momoshiki's words fell, I immediately rejected his request. Seeing this, Momoshiki prepared to continue his attack, but feeling that the current battlefield was too restrictive, he asked if we could duel at the ruins of Izuma. Upon seeing my agreement, Momoshiki immediately headed for the Izuma ruins. Seeing this, I also prepared to leave. Just then, Boruto suddenly spoke up. "Uncle Chen, can you take me with you? I really don't want to be a frog in the well anymore. I want to see the vaster world out there. Although I don't know why you were enemies with my dad and the others before. But now, I think you must have had a compelling reason. Besides, seeing how you fought just now, that is what a true ninja should be like in my heart. I want to become a strong person like you someday." As Boruto finished speaking, I agreed to his request. Afterwards, I took Boruto with me to the Izuma ruins. After we left, both Naruto and Sasuke were completely shocked by the battle that had just occurred. Sasuke's shock was especially apparent. He never expected that Uchiha-chen, after awakening the Rinnegan, could become this powerful. Furthermore, he was actually able to reverse time, to revert his body back to an uninjured state. Hearing this, Naruto looked confused. "Sasuke, do you think we misunderstood Uchiha-chen? Just now, he was genuinely fighting with his life on the line against the Otsutsuki." Hearing Naruto's words, Sasuke immediately shook his head. Him fighting the Otsutsuki doesn't necessarily mean he stands on our side. It's possible that Chen simply wants to hunt for the power of the Otsutsuki clan, or even become an Otsutsuki himself. Regardless, whether it's to eliminate the Otsutsuki threat, or to bring Boruto back, we must head to the Izuma ruins immediately. As Sasuke's words fell, Naruto immediately nodded. "All right, but let's gather the power of the 5 cage first. Once they are assembled, we'll head there together." Meanwhile, at the Izuma ruins, Momoshiki was standing next to a withered divine tree. The moment he saw me, he immediately launched an attack. Seeing this, I promptly told Boruto to watch from the sidelines. Then, I dodged sideways, and subsequently, I unleashed purple lightning, piercing right through Momoshiki's body. The next second, Momoshiki collapsed to the ground. Realizing the situation was dire, Momoshiki immediately rushed over to Boruto. However, before Boruto could react, Momoshiki planted his karma on him. Soon, on Boruto's right hand, a diamond-shaped mark materialized. Following that, Boruto fainted. Seeing this, I merely smiled slightly. It was all because Momoshiki had finally planted his karma on Boruto. Momoshiki also realized my intentions, and furiously charged at me. Seeing this, I decided to stop wasting time, and directly activated my complete body Susanoo. Following that, I used the armor-piercing spear, and under the relentless barrage of the armor-piercing spear, Momoshiki was finally defeated. At this moment, Momoshiki burst into loud laughter. "You win, Chen, with your strength. You could easily rank among the top 5 of Takamagara's 10 gods." Hearing this, my expression turned serious. Where does Ishiki's strength rank among these so-called 10 gods? And this Ryushiki you mentioned, from the sound of it, he must be the leader of the 10 gods, right? Hearing my words, Momoshiki spoke slowly. Ishiki Otsutsuki. His aptitude as a god was mediocre, but he lived the longest, reaping the benefits of time. Therefore, he managed to rank 3rd among the 10 gods, just below Kami Shiki. But Lord Ryushiki's power belongs to an entirely different totem. Ishiki cannot even begin to compare to Lord Ryushiki. Hearing this, I gained a general understanding of the power hierarchy among the 10 gods. Then, I used Gyakumo Daryu, freezing both Momoshiki and the withered divine tree in time, and sent them into the Daryu stone dimension. However, right at this moment, the 5 cage, led by Naruto and Sasuke, finally arrived on the scene. Upon seeing the traces of battle on the ground, Sasuke immediately questioned me. "Uchiha-chen, what exactly did you do? Where is Momoshiki?" Hearing this, I looked at him with disdain. What nonsense, he's exactly where he's supposed to be. As soon as my voice fell, Sasuke clenched his fists tightly, because he hadn't expected me to take down Momoshiki all by myself. Just as the atmosphere froze, Kurotsuchi suddenly yelled, "Look, someone collapsed over there." It was the Hokage's son. As soon as those words were spoken, Naruto immediately flashed to Boruto's side. Upon seeing the traces of battle around him, Naruto couldn't help but look puzzled, because only where Boruto had fallen, there were no traces at all. While Naruto was stunned, Kurama's voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Naruto, that mark on Boruto's right hand isn't right. Hearing Kurama's words, Naruto finally noticed the diamond-shaped mark on Boruto's right hand. Then he muttered to himself, who left this thing on Boruto? Was it Chen or Momoshiki? It seemed they could only wait for Boruto to wake up, to tell them himself. Afterward, Naruto sent Boruto back through a spatial portal. He then walked over to Sasuke and the 4-cage. At this moment, Kurama stood firm on both feet, transforming into a majestic armor, and the 4-cage, following Naruto and Sasuke, bathed together in Kurama's chakra. Then Naruto shouted, "You guys, do you feel it? Chakra has already enhanced your bodies. Please combine your power with this majestic attire, Susanoo." As Naruto's words fell, I was immediately left speechless. Is this how you treat your savior? I just neutralized the threat of Momoshiki for you. And before I can even get a good rest, you're about to use your ultimate moves on me without a word. Is this the tolerance of your 5 great nations? As soon as my voice fell, they all lowered their heads one after another. After all, they were indeed. Seeing this, Sasuke immediately spoke up. Don't let his words distract you. We can't gamble the safety and future of the ninja world on his moral standards. So, for the sake of the ninja world's safety, we have to do this. After all, his power is far too dangerous. And if we don't strike while he's weak, we'll never have another chance. Before I could even react, Naruto also slowly spoke. Shen, come back to Konoha with us for an investigation. As long as you cooperate obediently, we won't make things difficult for you. And if it turns out you are not an enemy, we will apologize to you. Even if you've had thoughts of turning against us, it doesn't matter. It's not too late to turn back now. Hearing this, I sneered coldly. And in the next second, I launched an attack at the 6 of them. A few minutes later, all 6 were severely injured under my onslaught, passing out directly on the spot. At this time, I walked up to Kurotsuchi. Then I used the Yumo Polyu on her. In the next second, Kurotsuchi's body was fully restored. Kurotsuchi then scratched her head, Brother Chen. I'm sorry. If I hadn't attacked along with the other cage, it would have been too obvious. Hearing this, I shrug. It's fine. I'll leave the aftermath of the 5-cage to you. When Sasuke wakes up, just follow him back using his Rinnegan. As my words fell, Kurotsuchi immediately nodded. Okay, Brother Chen. When will you take me to the hidden Shadow Village? I haven't seen Brother Deidara in a long time. Hearing Kurotsuchi's words, I told her to go back and spend time with her family first. Just then, Madara and Obito also rushed over. Seeing this, I told them about the battle that had just happened. Just as we were about to leave, a Yomatsu Hirasaka portal suddenly appeared in front of us. In the next second, Yorishiki walked out from within. The moment Yorishiki saw the 3 of us, he froze on the spot, because he had merely come to collect Momoshiki's favor. But he absolutely didn't expect us to be here. Moreover, Yorishiki's Tamatebako had already been used on Toneri, so he had no capital to fight against the 3 of us. Thinking of this, Yorishiki immediately opened a Yomatsu Hirasaka portal and fled the area. Seeing this scene, Madara looked puzzled. What just happened? You let him run away. Are we going to chase him now? Hearing this, I nodded. Of course, we're chasing him. Does trash like him deserve to prance around in front of me? I only let him go back then to plausibly allow Momoshiki to escape, and to let Momoshiki's karma remain to serve my purposes. That was why I spared him. Now that my goals are achieved, there is no reason to let him go. Saying this, the 3 of us immediately left the area. Although Yorishiki had successfully escaped, his suspended heart didn't settle. He was terrified that I would use time reversal to drag him back. He also worried that since I stood with the 5-cage, his success rate of targeting the Ninetales would be very low. Therefore, Yorishiki prepared to use Karasuki, as it was the Otsutsuki clan's treasured artifact for time travel. As long as enough energy was stored, he could freely traverse the timeline. Thus, he planned to go back to when the Ninetales Jinchuriki was a child, to make his move on him. Furthermore, he intended to kill me in my childhood. Thinking of this, Yorishiki immediately activated it. In the next second, he rode Karasuki back to the past. However, out of Yorishiki's sight, 3 people he couldn't see were sitting on the device. It was none other than me, Madara, and Obito. Because I used the dojutsu, Boriexu, Yorishiki didn't detect me. This dojutsu grants immunity to all sensory abilities. After a while, Yorishiki returned to the past. As soon as he landed, he scanned his surroundings. He realized he was in Konoha, in the year 61. Just as Yorishiki was about to search for the Ninetales Jinchuriki, Madara, Obito, and I appeared directly in front of him. Seeing this, Yorishiki immediately shouted, "What are you doing here?" This is impossible. Could it be that Karasuki consumed so much energy ... because it transported you three as well? But why didn't I sense you? Before Yorishiki could finish speaking, I immediately used Banshu Tennen to pull Karasuki toward me. Then, I cast Yomatsu Toryu to freeze its time, and stored it within the Toryu dimension. After all, Karasuki was the key to unraveling the truth behind Jing's death. Seeing this, Yorishiki desperately lunged forward, for it was his only chance to break out of this dire situation. However, Madara kicked him away without a second thought. Realizing the situation was turning against him, Yorishiki instantly tried to flee. Seeing his attempt, the three of us immediately gave chase. Realizing he couldn't escape, Yorishiki dropped to his knees and begged me for mercy. Hearing his pleas, I let out a cold sneer. Yorishiki, I have a question for you. If you answer honestly, I wouldn't mind letting you live a little longer. Tell me, who was the Grand Commander that came with you to the land of Jianyu? Who were the members? As my words fell, Yorishiki's expression instantly turned grim. Uchiha-chen, you might as well just kill me. Hearing this, I immediately frowned. It doesn't matter if you refuse to speak. I'll just search your mind myself. Yet, before I could finish speaking, Yorishiki suddenly died on the spot. Witnessing this, Madara immediately asked me what had happened. After pondering for a moment, I clenched my fists and replied, Yorishiki's brain was tempered with Byaijin Jutsu. The moment someone attempts a mental search, the information is instantly destroyed. As soon as I finished speaking, and before Madara could respond, Obito interjected, that shouldn't be too hard to fix, right? Just reverse time to resurrect him. And then, we can figure out a way to break that seal. Hearing Obito's suggestion, I shook my head. That won't work, because Yomatsu Toryu cannot reverse the spiritual trauma caused by a Jinjutsu. There's absolutely no way to save him. Yorishiki is completely useless to us now. Madara and Obito nodded in understanding. I then looked down at Yorishiki's eyes. Although Yorishiki's personal strength was quite weak, his eyes were unparalleled treasures. After all, he could freely switch between the Byakugan and to pairs of Rinnegan. Thinking of this, I gouged out Yorishiki's eyes, froze them in time, and stored them in the Toryu dimension. At that moment, Madara asked if we were heading back now. I replied slowly, not yet. Since we are already here, there is someone I need to see. With that said, we left the area. Meanwhile, in the Valley of Lightning, an elderly man in monk's robes was meditating on a large rock. Two young boys were kneeling before him. They were none other than my past self and my younger brother, Jing. At this point in time, I had come to seek apprenticeship under this old man. And this old man was the successor of Ninshur, whom I would later call Zen Master. Suddenly, the Zen Master opened his eyes. I have never accepted a disciple in my entire life. However, seeing your earnest sincerity, I shall teach you a few simple techniques. Yet, before the Zen Master could finish his sentence, he looked directly at the three of us standing not too far away. Even though at this moment, our presence had been completely erased by the Boer Yeksu technique, Madara looked confused. He can actually see us through the Boer Yeksu. Even the Hatsutsuki couldn't detect it. Hearing this, I began to explain to Madara. If one devotes themselves entirely to meditation and reaches the profound realm of samadhi, while completely abstaining from the practice of ninjutsu, it is possible to awaken certain special abilities through Zen. Just as my words fell. However, the Zen Master's voice suddenly rang in my mind. Do not do anything in this era. That would alter the natural course of history. Doing so will lead to your immediate erasure from existence. Hearing this, I responded to him telepathically. Not even with Do-on-me Didi. Hearing my words, the Zen Master replied, Do-on-me Didi, is that the karmic jutsu, born from your Rinnegan? I regret to inform you that you are nowhere near powerful enough to sever the laws of karma across space and time. If you take your brother away right now, the entanglement of karma will cause you to vanish on the spot. Therefore, you must return to your own time immediately. Before his voice completely faded, the Zen Master on the rock suddenly clutched his chest. Seeing this, Obito immediately asked me what was happening to him. I then explained it to Obito. The price for awakening his special abilities is that he can never interfere with the karma of others. It was exactly from this moment onward that the Zen Master's health began to rapidly deteriorate, ultimately leading to his passing 3 years later. It turns out that all of this was because he intervened in my karma. Realizing this, I fully understood the Zen Master's painstaking efforts. Therefore, I couldn't let his sacrifice be in vain. With that thought, I walked up to Jing. Looking at him, my heart swelled with deep emotion. I truly want to figure out right now exactly who the mastermind behind your death is. But now is not the time. Simply because Ishiki and the formidable enemies of the Kara organization have yet to be dealt with. Furthermore, with Momoshiki and Yorishiki dying by my hands one after another, I suspect that Kara's actions will change accordingly. So I cannot afford any distractions right now. Once I deal with them, I promise I will avenge you. Gathering my resolve, I brought Madara and Obito back aboard Akatsuki, preparing to return to our own era. Witnessing this, the Zen master let out a heavy sigh. All of this ... is destiny. I, this old monk, officially take you as my disciple today, and will impart to you the secret traditions of the Six Paths Shinobi sect and the art of meditation. Meanwhile, in the forest, three figures were sprinting forward at top speed. They were Boruto and Sarada, along with Mitsuki. At this moment, Sarada shouted toward Boruto, "Boruto, where exactly are you going?" Hearing this, Boruto did not respond. He simply kept running forward blindly. Seeing this, Sarada's face filled with worrying. It was because ever since Boruto woke up, he had been acting as if he'd been provoked. The moment he regained consciousness, he insisted on coming to this lightning valley. Before long, they arrived in front of a house. Immediately after, they walked inside. As soon as they entered, Boruto's attention was drawn to a family portrait. Seeing this, Boruto smiled faintly, because he guessed that Yuki was my daughter, but he had come here to look for me. And yet Boruto found no trace of me here. Thus, he recalled that Yuki came from the Shadow Ninja village. Boruto then assumed I should be there too. After pondering for a moment, he clenched his fists, and then shouted in his mind, "Momoshiki, come out and see me right now." In the next second, Momoshiki appeared within Boruto's mindscape. Seeing him, Boruto slowly spoke, "Momoshiki, I want to ask you for a favor. Please help me find Uncle Chen. I need to see him." Hearing this, Momoshiki immediately sneered. "If it were anything else, I would definitely make you immediately. But for this matter alone, I can help you fulfill it." As Momoshiki's words fell, Boruto immediately asked where I was. Hearing his words, Momoshiki looked at Boruto. "His chakra has disappeared from your so-called ninja world, so he is either in an alternate dimension, or in a place that can block chakra perception." Upon hearing this, Boruto immediately frowned. "What did you say? Doesn't that mean we still can't find him?" As soon as these words were spoken, Momoshiki's expression instantly darkened. "Lower life form, mind your tone when speaking to me. Of course, I have a way. Uchiha Yuki is Uchiha Chen's daughter, so as long as you find her, you will be able to find this Shadow Ninja village you speak of, and her chakra is currently moving at high speed toward the southwest of this land. I will now sync my perception with yours. If we are fast enough, we should be able to catch up." As Momoshiki's words faded, Boruto immediately sensed Yuki's chakra. This was because Momoshiki had briefly fought Yuki before, so her chakra had been marked by him. After this, Boruto looked at Sarada and Mitsuki beside him. "Sorry, I'm going to find Uchiha Chen now. You guys should hurry back. I don't plan on returning to Konoha anytime soon." As soon as Boruto finished speaking, Sarada's face immediately filled with disbelief. "Are you crazy? Boruto, do you even know who he is? For you to go seeking revenge against him right now is no different from seeking your own death." Hearing this, Boruto immediately retorted, "I'm not going for revenge. I'm looking for Uncle Chen for something else. Besides, Uncle Chen isn't what you all think he is. None of you understand his true self. He is the true great ninja in my heart. I swear I will become a ninja just like him." Hearing Boruto's words, Sarada was instantly shocked, but seeing Boruto so persistent, Sarada decided to go along with him. Soon after, they left the area. Seeing this scene, Mitsuki silently followed behind them. Meanwhile, at the entrance of the Shadow Ninja village, Hikari, Yuki, Samui, and the others were gathered at the gates. Because only Konan and I could open the main gate, they had no choice but to wait at the entrance. At this moment, a white Zetsu suddenly appeared in front of them. Seeing this, Hikari directly spoke up. "Hello, could you please contact those inside and ask Sister Konan to come over and open the gate?" Hearing this, the white Zetsu shook its head. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Mistress, because 3 guys from Konoha are currently rushing toward us." Just as the white Zetsu finished speaking, Boruto's trio arrived at the scene. Seeing this, Yuki immediately questioned Boruto. "Why did you come here? Did your father, Uzumaki Naruto, send you?" As soon as Yuki finished speaking, Boruto immediately shook his head. "No, I came here on my own accord, because I want to see your father, Uchiha Chen." Hearing this, Yuki asked Boruto how he knew she was my daughter. Hearing Yuki's words, Boruto spoke slowly. "My father and Sarada's father once fought Uncle Chen at the entrance of your home. I overheard their conversation afterward, and found out where you lived. I went to your house, and discovered your family portrait." As Boruto's words fell, Yuki nodded. However, at this moment, the 3 of us, riding on a donkey, suddenly landed at the entrance of the Shadow Village. Seeing this scene, Boruto immediately walked up to me with an excited expression. Seeing this, I was not surprised by Boruto's arrival. But I didn't expect him to come this quickly. Following that, I smiled faintly. On your own. You shouldn't have been able to find this kind of place, right? As soon as these words were spoken, Boruto immediately showed his right hand. It was the guy in here who guided me. By searching for your daughter Yuki's chakra, he allowed me to find this place. Hearing this, my expression turned serious. In other words, this was your own spontaneous action. And your family and the people in your village know nothing about this. But you know, based on Konoha's standards, this action of yours will likely require more than just writing a self-reflection letter when you get back. Do you think you can just brush this off? You paid such a heavy price to find your way here. So tell me, why exactly? Did you come looking for me? As my words fell, Boruto immediately fell to his knees. Mr. Uchiha-chen, please take me as your disciple. Seeing this, Sarada's face was instantly filled with shock. Boruto, do you have any idea what you're saying? With that, Sarada prepared to rush forward. Seeing this, Mitsuki grabbed her from the side. Hold on, calm down. We should have guessed this. After all, Boruto traveled all this way to find him. If he wasn't here for revenge, what other reason could he have for seeking out Uchiha-chen? Therefore, the direction this situation takes now is completely out of our hands. It entirely depends on Boruto and Uchiha-chen. If you go over there now, you'll only be making things worse. Hearing their conversation, I paid them no mind, instead looking directly at Boruto with a solemn expression. Have you thought this through? The stances of the Hidden Shadow Village and Konoha depend on your father, the Hawkage. And right now, I can be considered an enemy of the Hidden Leaf. Have you considered what it means to take an enemy as your master? How will your father feel when he finds out? Hearing this, Boruto's face was filled with unwavering resolve. I have already left a letter for my father. I have resolved to become your disciple and join the Hidden Shadow Village. Hearing this, I smiled faintly. Then, have you ever considered the possibility that I might truly be Konoha's ultimate enemy? As soon as those words were spoken, Boruto immediately shook his head. Absolutely not. That is merely a misunderstanding between you, my father, and Uncle Sasuke. I believe that when the day comes for that misunderstanding to be cleared up, Konoha will definitely become an ally of the Hidden Shadow Village. And even if you truly are, I will not regret my choice. When that time comes, I will simply end my own life. That way, I will have honored Konoha for raising me, without betraying the trust and guidance you have given me. As Boruto's words fell, I nodded in satisfaction. It is impressive that your resolve has reached such a level. Then, from this day forward, you are a shadow ninja, and simultaneously, you are the disciple of Uchiha-chen. Truthfully, this decision was not a mere whim on my part. After all, the impending clash with Ishiki and his Kara organization was drawing near, and the divine techniques they possessed could only be truly neutralized. Even though my strength far surpassed that of many Otsutsuki, my bloodline was ultimately not that of a pure-blooded Otsutsuki. Therefore, I could not be completely immune to the divine techniques on a fundamental level. However, Boruto, who bore Momoshiki's karma, was the perfect candidate to cover our faction's weakness in this regard. Thinking up to this point, I pulled Boruto to his feet. Immediately after, I looked at Sarada and Mitsuki with a solemn expression. The location of this Hidden Shadow Village is strictly confidential. Therefore, leaving here completely unscathed is impossible for you. Right now, I will give you 3 choices. The first is to stay here with Boruto, but without my permission. Do not even dream of ever leaving. The second is for me to wipe your memories using Genjutsu, and then you can go back to wherever you came from. The third is for you to die here right now. The moment my words fell, Mitsuki stated without hesitation that he would stay. Beside him, after a brief moment of thought, Sarada also chose to stay. It was simply because she did not want to leave Boruto here all alone. Moreover, she also wanted to see for herself if I truly was the great hero that Boruto made me out to be. Afterwards, I brought all of them into the Hidden Shadow Village. Once inside, I handed the trio over to Konan, letting her help them settle in. Meanwhile, back in Konoha, Sasuke had returned with the 5 cage. Seeing this, the Konoha shinobi were instantly filled with excitement. This was because they assumed the 5 cage had defeated the enemy. However, at this moment, the faces of the cage were etched with utter dejection. Seeing this scene, Shikamaru immediately walked up to them. What happened? Did Momoshiki and Uchiha-chen join forces against you all? Hearing this, Naruto shook his head. No, it was Uchiha-chen alone. After he finished off Momoshiki, he single-handedly injured me, Sasuke, and all the other cage. And even then, Uchiha-chen was the one who let us off the hook. Otherwise, not a single one of us would have made it back alive. As Naruto finished speaking, Shikamaru took a deep breath. Then let's set that matter aside for now. For what I am about to show you, you need to brace yourself. This is a letter left behind by Boruto. I know this isn't the best time, but this is a matter of utmost gravity. You'd better take a look at it. With that, Shikamaru handed the letter over to him.